this monkey for now, Frankenstein?
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it. Faravelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now, I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday night. It's 9 o'clock. It means it's time for another episode of Your List Sucks. We keep on trucking for a top 100 list. Tonight we're doing 40 through 31. Thanks for joining us.
NPR? What are we doing?
I meant we all should talk like this the rest of the show. It would be the most chill night.
That's not going to happen. All right, we're back. We're in the 40s, 30s. We're in the 30s tonight. It's just flying by. Feels like it goes faster as a host than did as a participant. But hey, I'm excited. Let's introduce the panel quick. Last week, with a controversial win, some might say, was Ethan Beller. Ethan, you're doing all right so far. How do you think it's going to go tonight?
Some might say controversial. I would say well-deserved. I would say that tonight's list, if I were judging it, I would win. But I'm not, so we'll see.
See what happens. Last week's second place finisher was Cody Newberry. Not happy about it. Cody had a very solid list. Both Ethan and Cody. It was hard to. These guys are making it hard for me every week, week in, week out. I thought it was going to be easier than this is, but it's not. Cody, you making a comeback? You going to take the? Are you going to be the clear cut winner this week?
I think I may lose you at some point, but gain the win at the end. I just don't know what's going to hold through. My voice or my patience for Ethan tonight. I don't know where it's at, but I thought Gremlins 2 was the most pissed. But when he said puppet penis was better than Children of Men and won, that takes the cake. Top it tonight. Please top it tonight. I'm so excited. I'm glad you were brought on the show.
All right. And last week with another non-last place finish, surprisingly, was Brian Michaels. How you doing tonight, Brian?
Why is it surprisingly? What are you talking about? I'm doing fine. I think this week, I think I have a pretty strong list. They're mostly normal movies. Nothing I think you're going to freak out about. Well, there's one. There's one I know you'll go off on. But even you don't say it's not a horrible movie. So we'll see. I don't expect to win if that's the question. Ever.
All right. And a little rocky patch last week hit by Zach Ford. He and I didn't exactly see eye to eye. But what do you think, Zach? Good turnaround this week?
Probably not. I have another list of historically great films take up half my list, so I expect me to get last again. So I'm just going in comfy mode. I'm on my couch. I'm just going to live my best life and live my best life at last place again.
That's how you do it. All right, so let's get started. We're going to do our top 40 through 38. Again, we'll try this again. Everybody's going to get a chance to talk, but quickly. We're going to rapid fire. You'll talk, I'll talk, everybody else. Real quick, give me one sentence, your thought. Little short, condensed idea of what you think about that movie. But let's start with Cody. Cody, you're 40 through 38.
All right, my 40 through 38. My 40 is Rounders. My 39 is The Town. And my 38 is Spotlight.
That's been pre-yikes. I had on my list.
So somebody brought up John Malkovich originally. And some would say being him is pretty cool. Fuck that. I would rather him sit across from a poker table and eat Oreos and scream at me. I love poker. Always have. It's one of my favorite pastimes to play, especially with a group of guys. And I feel like tension's never higher than in a gambling scene, when money's on the line and he has to pay for stuff, and he's just gambling the money he wins away. The first scene, I think, is, if you know anything about poker, I think it's gut wrenching, especially when he thinks he's basically doing the play by play of how it's going to work and what he's trapping this guy, and then when he turns over the cards to beat him and has no idea that was coming, it rips your heart out. Then there's an ass clown in this movie called Edward Norton, basically not the actor but the character that just drives you up the fucking wall the entire time, because every time Matt Damon gets going, he's there to knock it back down. The ending is one of my favorite endings of all time. I think it's gotten so many good quotes as "I pay you with your own money. Fine, go ahead, leave." Just to bait him back to the table is like, fine, I'll pay you with your own money. That's fine. I just think Rounders is incredible. Great tension. If you haven't seen it, check it out. My 39 is The Town. Is it a heist movie that makes my list? Sure. Is it that there's a fucking shootout in Fenway Park? That helps a whole lot from this movie. I just love the mob aspect of this with the florist like side story and where he goes. I think John Hamm. I'm not a huge John Hamm fan like in movies normally, but he's absolutely great in this film. Jeremy Renner and Ben Affleck's like chemistry as brothers is so good, especially with the classic line is, "Hey, you could never ask me about it again, but we're gonna hurt some people. Whose car are we taking? Yours or mine?" Just doesn't need anything more, but let's ride. Just the action and everything. It's a fantastic heist. I don't want to give too much because there's some twists and turns in this movie that I think are incredible. So, Town, and then my 38 is a Spotlight. So Spotlight came out, and I said, that's a fantastic movie. I'll never watch this movie again. Then I rewatched Spotlight, and I was like, no, that's absolutely incorrect. This movie is incredible. It's not a easy subject matter, but just the unpacking of the story on what happened and how basically the Catholic Church in Boston at that time, in the world, was basically like a mob. Basically, you commit things, they move you around, you never know anything. Everybody just says it's the church, you're good to go. Like, don't ask questions, don't cross lines. And how these 4 reporters are basically knocking on doors and finding out testimony. I think Mark Ruffalo was cheated out of an Oscar this year. I think Ruffalo is absolutely incredible. They're getting away! Like, it just is a classic scream. I don't know the exact line off the top of my head, but like his scream line, no one screams better than Ruffalo.
Cody! They knew!
They knew! I knew the whole time! So fantastic overall. It gets more and more rewatchable just because I think the performances in this movie and like the intrigue and the unpacking still holds up. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Spotlight was also on my list a while ago. And just to add a little bit to it, I am very caught up in the kind of procedural elements of newspaper movies. There's another one, it gives it away, but there will be another one on my list. At some point, that there's something about just watching people do really good at their jobs and you know, the hard work ethic that takes to pull these great stories and treating journalists almost like detectives or like spies in a way, and adding some importance to what they bring to our country. I always am very interested in, and especially when you know, always provides opportunity to put a great cast around it. It's not just, you know, Mark Ruffalo and probably my favorite Rachel McAdams performance, who's one of my favorite actresses, but giving her a chance to have a little more serious role and prove that like reliability and honorability that she has in that performance. But everyone, you know, throughout the whole, I don't want to list the IMDb cast, but it's filled with people all, you know, doing some of their best jobs. So it's surprisingly incredibly rewatchable as well.
Okay. Rounders. Just rewatched this for the first time in a long time yesterday. Really good movie. Yeah, I like. I'm not a poker player. Like the game, it's like the idea of playing the game is a lot of interest to me. But like the world around it and the people who play it are very fascinating. And I like how I like any movie that like explores a world, like not necessarily underworld, but just like any kind of like subculture that I'm not a part of and I'm not familiar with. And I like how this movie explores different levels of it. Like there's like the clean people who play it straight, and they're just, you know, they're playing for money, but they're not like, you know, they're not like degenerates. Then you have people just at all levels who are just ripping people off. You know, the cheaters, the different kinds of games. You know, the swarmy casino games where they're just, you know, looking for the fish, and then the serious games. that's a lot of fun just seeing that world exist. And the relationship between Norton and Matt Damon is really great. I just love that kind of relationship where you have the guy who's trying to get away, but he feels like he owes something to the person that's dragging him down, and all the problem that ensues from that. I love Martin Landau is really good in the little role he has in this. Malkovich is fun. That accent is a little out there. That like Mr. Scene of Beach, like that. That's just a little over the top. But I think he knows what he's doing. He's having fun with it. Definitely enjoy that movie. Real quick, everybody else on Rounders. Maybe this is about Rounders.
I saw it so long ago, I don't really remember it. So
Don't splash the pot. I like
They go splash the pot whenever the pot I want.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. The Town. Similar movie, same kind of relationship. You have a guy who's trying to like go clean the other guy dragging him, the other person dragging him down. But that's another great relationship in this movie between the two of them, just that connection they have. Great, like it's a great Boston movie. Just like I love movies about places, and I think this is really a great movie about the town. Just like Ham's great in this. And it's another one of those ones where you have two people on opposite ends, but you're not rooting against either of them. You both want to see them get what they want. But, that whole cat and mouse thing is great. The shootout at the end, great. The Fenway Park stuff's great. So that's another really good pick. Everybody else in town?
I really need to rewatch it. I liked it a lot at the time. I do want to think Cody plans these out. He does theme nights. This is Boston night. Last time was Denzel night.
Maybe.
Is that Ethan or Brian? Anything on the town?
I haven't seen the town.
Okay.
I actually enjoy it. I mean, it's a good crime thriller. I'm not a big fan of Ben Affleck, but he does a good job, both directing and acting here. And good story.
Spotlight. I'll put on my Andrew James Barr hat here. This is a movie I respect more than I like. Procedurals just aren't my genre. I'm not into the whole just kind of follow the path. It just doesn't do it for me. There's good performances there. Obviously, it's a very important movie about a very important subject matter. But it's just not something that I connect with. Just because, like I said, that's not my genre. Zach and Brian on Spotlight.
I find my opinion on it. That's fine.
Really overrated myself. It's fine, but like you, I don't really care about procedural, especially reporters, and especially when these movies that are journalism are the great gatekeepers who can discover the wrongs of the world. And it's whatever. I'll give that.
Yeah, performances are great. I saw this when it came out in theaters, and I didn't like it because I think I was just I don't know. It was not the time for me to enjoy this movie, and I think if I rewatch it, I might like it more. But the performances are great, and I haven't seen it since then. So I don't know.
Not enough dicks.
Definitely not enough dicks in it.
If they show dicks, it would be much more.
I'm so gifting that.
I don't think what kind of dicks they're showing.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
you're right.
I might want to call that one that. Yeah.
We'll move fast on that one.
Yeah. But yeah,
Too late.
But seriously, who judges movies because they're based in their hometown? That's such a stupid thing to do. Let's go to Ethan. You're 40 through 38.
All right, my number 40, Edward Scissorhands. My number 39, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. And my number 38 is a film called Mr. Nobody.
Oh.
Also theme night.
I feel like we're not starting off that bad.
Oh, God.
All right,
Where's it going to go?
Edward Scissorhands. This is, and people might think it's Beetlejuice. I think this is the most Tim Burton-y movie because Beetlejuice has all the crazy Tim Burton stuff in it. But this movie has that Tim Burton quality when he was first starting out. And he had that real outsider thing going. He had Edward is such a perfect weirdo in this movie and a misunderstood weirdo. And I just think this movie is really beautiful. The score is incredible. Johnny Depp's really good in this weird, quirky role before it's all he did. It's when Tim Burton still had a beautiful, really, really specific style that just worked for the humor and horror elements. I love the colors, all the weird pastel houses. It's a kind of satirical take on suburbia. Winona Ryder's great. Anthony Michael Hall is a villain. And Diane Wiest, who is just the most perfect mother ever in this movie. It's my first time ever seeing Diane Wiest performance, and she's she's incredible. We all know Diana Weiss is incredible. But yeah, this movie's just like really tragic and heartwarming and like weird in a way that I really like. And Vincent Price, he's great in that one scene he has in the beginning, which is also super tragic. And I think Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder have incredible chemistry, and I really love Tim Burton. And I wish he would continue making movies like this instead of what he makes now. Then we have Sweeney Todd, another Tim Burton movie, which I did not do on purpose. It takes a lot for me to get into a musical. I don't love musicals unless I really like the music and they have like a weird high concept. This movie has music that I really like and has a really weird, awesome concept of this like vengeful barber who wants to just he wants to murder people and the people who have wronged him. I'm a big fan of like long, drawn out revenge plots. I love the Count of Monte Cristo, stuff like that. So the story of this man who was cast out by society unfairly, and he comes back years later as a different person to get his revenge. I love it. I think the Tim Burton style, this is one of the later Tim Burton. I mean, I guess it's 13 years ago at this point, but this is one of those Tim Burton movies where it was like past his prime, but it was still great. It still had that good Tim Burton stuff. It's super bloody in like a fake blood way, in like a fun kind of stagey way almost, that I think really works with the theatrics of it. I think it's a really fun adaptation of the musical, which is like one of my favorite musicals ever. Everyone's perfectly cast in this. I mean, Johnny Depp, once again, perfect weirdo, evil, crazy guy. We have Alan Rickman as the judge, incredible. Helena Bonham Carter, like everyone's great in this movie. My only complaint about this compared to the musical is that Joanna gets like really short sticked in this one, and she is barely a character. But other than that, I love this movie. I love the music, and I think it's great. 38, Mr. Nobody. All right, this is a movie that a lot of people are not going to be able to get on board because it's like 2.5 hours of Jared Leto, and he is very heavily featured in this movie. I mean, he's the main character, and I know Jared Leto is like a cult leader and kind of crazy and awful now, but he's a really good actor, and in this movie, he's really good. This is a movie that really explores like butterfly effect and how tiny, small decisions can impact your whole life. It takes place in the future where Nemo Nobody is the last man who's going to die of old age because everyone else has like stem cells from pigs or something. And he's being interviewed about his life. And the interviewer is trying to figure out the story of his life, but it keeps changing because we're shown the different paths that his life could have taken. And it's just directed with such a beautiful visual style, and the score is really great, and the soundtrack is really great, and all the colors are really vibrant and crazy depending on which world you're in, which reality that he's explaining. And you never really get a definitive answer on which reality is the one he lived in, because the theme of the movie is like all of these realities are possible and they all exist. And I think I do believe it's a very profound movie, and it's really long, but I think it's worth it. It's great. Very unique movie.
Okay. Number 40, Edward Scissorhands. I agree with you. I think this is probably the most Tim Burton movie. I think Edward Scissorhands is basically like the Tim Burton stand-in. I think that's how he imagines himself. If you've ever seen the Death of Superman documentary, they show all his like concept art of Superman, and it's literally just Edward Scissorhands. It's Edward Scissorhands with an S on his chest. So I think that's just an idea he has that's like always there. So I definitely think this is like core Burton. I like the movie. I like just the fairy tale aspect of it. I like that tone. I like when you let Tim Burton loose in his own imagination. I think he does good things. When you give him existing IP, that's a problem. Which takes us to our next movie. But I'll let everybody talk about Edward Scissorhands first. Nobody?
Tim Burton is ass. I think he's a terrible director. I think his concepts are terrible. Edward Scissorhands, awful. It started Johnny Depp. I just wish Johnny Depp would like adapt what he did in this movie and not talk as much. It'd be better for me, but yeah, no thanks.
I liked Edward Scissorhands. I mean, it's Tim Burton, but he's kind of doing the fairy. It's basically a Tim Burton version of a fairy tale, and it works real well. And at the time, I had a huge crush on Winona Ryder, so that didn't hurt either. And his first time we saw Anthony Michael Hall had gone from Little Geek, and then all of a sudden he was a big buff jock, so that was kind of a weird juxtaposition.
I didn't realize that was Anthony Michael Hall until you said that now, so my mind is blown. I've seen this like a gajillion times as a youth. It's one of my brother's favorite movies, and I've not watched it as an adult. I don't know why. Some of these early Tim Burton's I really need to go back to because it is a movie I have nostalgia for, but also I think I have appreciation for Tim Burton at his best. Because I also like Dumbo Rules, and you're all crazy.
You had a best? That's crazy.
Okay. One that's definitely not Tim Burton's best is your number 39, Sweeney Todd. Like I said, I like Tim Burton when he's doing his own thing. Whenever he gets hands on something, a pre-existing idea, it doesn't always work out. I think that's what happens here. I think the concept and the idea of Sweeney Todd is fun. I've never seen the original musical. People who have, like all the Barr and Holtzman, everybody, they all tell me how this kind of sucks the life out of it. Like Holtzman said, just takes really ruins the musical, and I completely believe it because I just like this. It just seems so lifeless and boring. They cast a bunch of actors who cannot sing, especially God bless Alan Rickman. I love the guy. R.I.P. Brilliant actor. Did so many great things, but the guy is one of the worst singers I've ever heard on film ever. Like whoever cast him in a musical should never be allowed near movies again because that was just a terrible choice. And I really like on stage it might be better, but I really don't like the music in this. Like Pretty Women is just such a dumb song, and the other stuff is just really like dull. I don't like it. I know. We're trying to be brief here, guys. I know some of you have a lot of ideas of this movie, but real quick, thoughts on Sweeney Todd.
I very much like Sweeney Todd. I think that it's very well done. I understand that that style of musical where everything's sung and that kind of style of the singing is not for everybody. I get that, but for me, it works perfectly. And I didn't mind that the voices are not perfect singers. I thought it fit the characters well.
I appreciate Ethan putting this on just to bring out the anger of the Broadway purist nerd crowd. That drives me fucking nuts. Make them mad. Things could be better as a movie. Okay. I liked it a lot when I saw it in 2007. I watched it, tried to watch it somewhat recently, and like made it halfway through, and then never finished for other reasons. So maybe it's not as engaged. I still don't hate, as I was watching, still appreciate a lot of it, but it's kind of a drag. It could be a little slow.
Yeah, I've said my piece on the thing on the musical side. For it to be on 39 of the top 100 is fucking insane, asinine. It's just this is one of the worst musicals. I don't believe there was any lighting on set for the film at all. I don't believe I don't think it was in the budget because Tim Burton hasn't made successful movies in a long time, so he probably ran out of money because he has to pay his two friends to be in every movie with them, or his wife and his friend. And they're terrible in this film. And you're right, Alan Rickman is a terrible singer, but apparently, hey, we'll put him in the role because that will do it.
All right. And finally, Ethan, your number 38, Mr. Nobody. I just watched this for the first time this week. Again, this is a movie where one viewing, I'm not going to pretend like I understand everything is going on because there's a lot going on, a lot of ideas being thrown at you. But I liked it. Again, this is another movie that kind of has like a fairy tale aspect to it. They're exploring, they're going in and out of different versions of the life he could have lived, which I think is just interesting because my favorite part of this movie is that the one version of his life that he planned out was basically the most miserable one. The one where he's like, I want to do this, and get everything I want. He gets that life and it kind of sucks. And then everything else that kind of goes wrong turns out good for him. But yeah, I think it's a really beautiful movie. The third act, the ending kind of falls apart for me for a little bit, just because I think it's trying to do too much. But again, that could be because just one. I may need to watch it another again just to catch up on everything that's going on. I don't know how soon I'm going to do it again because it is a 2.5 hour movie. That's a big commitment. But I didn't mind it. Has anybody else seen Mr. Nobody?
Nobody.
It took me a minute through Ethan speaking to realize he wasn't talking about the Harmony Korine movie, Mr. Lonely, which honestly might pop on the list. It would be another weird ass Ethan choice. That makes sense. But I haven't seen this one.
All right. Okay, Brian.
Hold on. I just think creators of those films are, it's not going to make a lot of money, but good thing we got Ethan. Telling me Jared Leto for 2.5 hours. 2 hours was enough for Suicide Squad. No, thank you. I'll pass.
All right, Brian, that takes us to your 40.
My number 40 is Scream.
Yikes.
My number 39 is Disney's animated Aladdin. And my number 38 is Goonies.
Okay, let's
right.
start with Aladdin.
Skip. So Aladdin. So Aladdin. I mean, the 90s, I think, were the golden age for me, for anybody with a brain, of Disney movies. I think most of their best movies came out in that period, especially the early 90s period. And Aladdin was one of the best. Not only because of the animation, but the music with Howard Ashman, Alan Menken is one of their best as far as the songs. They get everything right from the love songs to the fun songs and everything in between. You have one of the best villains in Disney history with a real mustache twirling Jafar. They got him there. Robin Williams, though, is obviously the star of this movie. The perfect casting. It's like really only a genie could really portray Robin Williams' brand of comedy. It was constantly, changing characters and everything. And I think that was the perfect match of a performer and a character. Celebrity voices wasn't really a thing kind of before this. I mean, once in a long while they have somebody, but Robin Williams appears the genie, and for better or worse, that was the turning point where now every single animated film is nothing but celebrity voices. But in this case, they picked him because it fit perfectly, and Robin Williams is really what made this movie. But on top of that, it just had tons of heart to it.
And I think this was like my 80 something.
You had two, okay.
I had two. My 93. And this movie could be a lot higher when I look at my list, but Aladdin has always stuck out. That, Beauty and the Beast, those like two. I agree with you. I think Disney has always done good films for me. I don't like their early stuff, but their later stuff. But the 90s is when it was absolutely top. And just, Robin Williams has always like one of those actors for me that has always like, I find one of the most hilarious human beings to ever walk this earth. And where he's able to do his impressions and everything else into this character. And I think they do the love story. I think the songs are absolutely incredible throughout it. I think Jafar is like top 3 Disney villain of all time. I think Jafar is just absolutely incredible. It's what they get wrong in the remake with Will Smith. It's just, it's quick. It's the animation holds up really well. And his 2 songs, Robin Williams' 2 songs, are just excellent compared, because he's not known for being like a top-notch singer. So it worked.
All right. And so, Brian, you're 38.
38 was the Goonies. This is one that might be, of anything on my list, the most just tainted by nostalgia for me, because I was just the right time, the right age. I was the same age as these kids when it came out. So this movie was like, my little dream world, going on adventure with my friends, and we probably imitated this far too many times as kids. But I mean, just because I was the right age at the time. Steven Spielberg, who produced this, obviously, he was basically God at the time with Indiana Jones and everything else he was putting out. He was the biggest director on the planet. He even had Data was Ke Huy Quan, John Quan, who was just come off of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It's a fun cast from top to bottom. I mean, Anne Ramsey as Mama Fratelli, and then of course you got Robert Davi and Joey Pants as the Fratelli brothers. I mean, they were great in addition to the whole kid cast. This is something, like I said, it could be largely nostalgia, but I still think it's one of the best kid adventure films out there, and a great family film that has stood the test of time.
Is Brian referring to his age part of the drinking game? Because as soon as he said it, Cody and Zach both instantly drank. So is that it? Is that part of it?
It could be.
We're not cool enough. We're not on this episode. Yeah. Like Koho's not on this episode. He didn't create a game for it. So
it's really
for him.
Okay, Aladdin. Yeah, I love Aladdin. Aladdin is probably my favorite of the. He's playing by himself. It's probably my favorite of the Renaissance. I really, really like Aladdin. I always have, ever since it first came out. I love the music. It's great. I just love it. It's a lot more like, it has like more of a gritty, like realistic feel than a lot of those movies. Just like with Aladdin, like that all that street level stuff is really great. Williams is great. It's a perfect fit for him and his comedy. Jafar is a great, really dark, like adult villain. Really, a lot of stuff I like about this movie. That, like I said, it's probably my overall favorite Disney movie. Zach and Ethan, anything to say about Aladdin?
I am not a big fan of a lot of Disney musicals, animated musicals, and I do enjoy Aladdin. I haven't seen it in a really long time. I do like it, Cody. I haven't seen it in a long time. The music's very good. Robin Williams is really funny. Jafar is a great villain, but yeah, I haven't watched it in a while. The new one's terrible though. It's really bad.
Oh yeah, we wanted to talk about that.
That's a given. Yeah.
Check out my review.
I am somehow in the complete opposite of most of our community on their area of Disney respect, because I am like starting to realize I'm probably the biggest.
It's called a circle jerk, Zach.
Yeah, I'm outside the circle jerk. I'm in my own single jerk of 70s and before. Disney is probably where most of my respect comes from, because I think kind of what Robin Williams almost destroyed animation a little bit with what he did. I don't think it's bad in this film, but it kind of turned animation to having such this contrast away from the like cultural reality of the film, of having this level of comedic relief that's so absurd and so outside what else is happening in the rest of the movie. And every movie thinks they need to appeal through kids through this kind of exaggerated and artificial fun. It kind of works because it's him, but it still kind of throws me a little off every time.
Okay. And last one here for Brian for now is The Goonies. This is one that shouldn't hold up, but it does. This is actually the first movie I went back post-pandemic when they were starting to open back up. I took my family to see this. There's just so much to love. One of my favorite all-time scenes of the 80s at any movie, any genre, is Chunk's confession when he's just giving everything up. It's like, I made a noise. It's just so good. The Fratelli brothers, their back and forth is great. Just a fun like kids. It's like that ultimate like it's like the template for so much, like Stranger Things, everything you see now. There's a reason for that, because it's just like a fun, like it just grabs you as a kid, and like you said, Brian, that nostalgia of like just wanting to have done that, or wanting to do that when you're a kid. I like I said, I shouldn't like that movie. It should be super dated and super just bad now, but it's not. Everybody else on the Goonies,
except Cody.
The fact that it should be, it is dated and it is not great. This is nostalgia pile of shit. I'm glad anybody born in the 80s and you had a lot of fun because you're the same age, fine. Go back take the goggles off, take the glasses off, smash them, and watch this movie. It is awful. It also didn't help fat kids growing up post 80s because they all ask you to do the fucking truffle shuffle. And let me tell you, I'm not fucking doing it for you, okay? So fuck this movie for setting up bad expectations that you could just yell at fat kids and tell them, hey, lift up your shirt and let me see your stomach jiggle. Fucking rude. So fuck the Goonies. Hey, you guys, don't care. It's awful. So yeah, no thank you.
This movie sucks. I watched it somewhere recently. It's so fucking boring. I think Richard Donner in general is kind of a flat director. I think he got lucky with projects that spoke to people's nostalgia, because they just like there's a level of excitement missing. How can a movie of kids exploring a cave be so fucking dull? I don't get it.
Brian likes to talk about it when he was a kid and like this movie nostalgia and everything. I also watched this when I was a kid, and it was the greatest movie ever made. I loved it for my entire childhood. And then I rewatched it when I was like 20 and I hated it. And then I rewatched it a couple years ago again and I was like, fuck it. It's really fun. I still like this movie. It's a fun movie. The Fratellis are fun. Sloth is he's awesome. Martha Plimpton is really good. She's like such an underrated actress. I like this movie. I like all the cast and it's fun. So get over yourselves, you grumpy assholes.
My wife just texted me truffle shuffle from the other room. Okay, so this shit.
All right, Zach, let's get your bottom three.
Oh shit, I'm not prepared for this. Can you put?
I mean, you knew you were coming up. So.
No, I had it, but I was looking up Goonies.
Yikes.
Okay, Pulp Fiction. Okay, 39 Royal Tenenbaums.
This had been previously.
Not a chance in hell.
Previously,
Cody yikes this one.
Okay.
No, I yiked it. You can go.
All right. And my 38 is The Muppet Movie. Could have expected that one. Okay. So 39 Royal Tenenbaums. Or Tenenbaums. Jesus Christ. They need a I would actually get this wrong in movie trivia thing, because they say Tenenbaums every time. They need, when they have a famous word that's in the song, like Tenenbaum, you gotta be consistent. Just change their name to Tenenbaums. Anyways, I am a gigantic Wes Anderson fan. He's possibly my favorite director, and I think this is when he really like concreted what his style was. I mean, I love Rushmore so much. It's my favorite Wes Anderson movie, but this I think because when he gets a bigger budget and his style can be a little sharper, have really fine tune the kind of cast. He's really working on his kind of ensemble that he would use throughout the films because he discovers all these people who are so perfect with his dialogue with, Angelica Houston and, Bill Murray repeating in this and, Owen Wilson as well. But then having Gene Hackman kind of be outside of this kind of Wes Anderson world in a way, he gives a performance that's a Gene Hackman performance, is this like perfect contrast of this kind of outsider father figure trying to force himself into this very Wes Anderson-y family that I think just works so perfectly. No one can write a group of oddballs better than him, and oddballs that we can be entertained by the ridiculousness of their caricatures, but also so moved by their empathy. I think the deadpan really helps make the emotional moments work because there's some of his most devastating moments throughout this movie with Luke Wilson's suicide and his whole kind of not unrequited, but like unallowed romance with Gwyneth Paltrow. There's some great drama with Gene Hackman's character not being loved in the family. I do, before I pass over to Ethan, I just want to say, because the unsung performance, really one of my top 5 Wes Anderson movie performances than anything is Danny Glover. I think is so extraordinary in this movie because he's just this quiet, timid person in the background, and we get this one moment to break down and kind of tear Gene Hackman apart for 5 seconds. It shows that he can take the screen from anybody. It's really remarkable.
Zach stole what I was going to say about Danny Glover because he's so good in this movie.
So good.
Everyone's great. Angelica Houston and Gene Hackman in this movie are also this is top of their game stuff. It's so good, so funny. I agree with everything Zach said. This is Wes Anderson, some of his best stuff. His style just I think works so perfectly for this insanely dysfunctional New York City family. And that scene with Luke Wilson when he tries to kill himself is one of my favorite of all time. It's so good. The music that plays within it's just so perfectly put together. There's not too much more I can add on to what Zach said because it's just a really, 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 really great movie that makes you. It makes me really sad when I watch it because it's just there's so many even though these characters are all such weirdos and crazy people, they are relatable and there's these aspects of family that everyone can take something from it. No matter how crazy the characters are, and when you put them in this kind of weird warm colored almost pastel Wes Anderson look, it's just so bizarre and it's just slightly off from real life, and I really enjoy it.
All right, and then Zach, go ahead and hit us with your 38.
Yeah, some really dumb comments happening in the chat between Spence acting like there's 38 movies left on this list. And then I don't even want to start on the Mars. Fucking blasphemy. Anyways, Muppet Movie. There is other Muppet movies that I think kind of really encapsulate the Muppet spirit, but this one it's really Jim Henson's whole ego put in the film because it has the really 70s new cinema kind of vibe and rhythm, but with Muppets because it's so low key. It definitely seems like they were all high the entire time they're making this with puppets on, and I just it makes the movie really calm and really relaxing. Definitely one of the ones that I have already played for my kid who has no idea what's happening in movies because it just has a calming rhythm that I think is important for young ones, but also just the lines are hilarious for adults. These are, Jim Henson has established that they never intended to make kid stuff. They just did stuff they thought was funny with puppets that they working with. They were really entertaining themselves and it just happens to be kid friendly. I think that comes off. That's what makes it age so perfectly and have such a wide fan base because it can hit on all those different levels and demographics. And they already had the Muppet Show at this point to really develop these characters, but being able to take those characters and put them in a fuller story and make it function so well, I think is harder than we would think. And so it's really amazing how they could develop these into full-fledged characters we can follow and a full community of Muppets that can all interact with each other. Maybe this should be higher because it's the Muppets, but it was a good spot. Oh, Muppet movie. Okay.
All right. Royal Tenenbaums. This is probably my favorite or second favorite Wes Anderson. I think it's his most accessible. It's his most grounded. It has all the quirkiness, but there are, like you said, Zach, those emotional beats that you and characters you can really connect to. Royal Tenenbaum might be my favorite Wes Anderson character. Gene Hackman's so good in this, and just all that, like that. Just seeing all that Wes Anderson stuff in like that like you said, Ethan, that New York family setting is so good. The whole cast is great. Danny Glover's great. Angelica Houston's great. The stuff between Royal and his son, I forget which
Ben
one.
Stiller, I think.
Ben Stiller, yeah. I forget the character's name. Richie's whatever. Ben Stiller. Yeah. That relationship is so great. Just everything he goes through, just like having lost his wife and him dealing with that. There's so much good on this movie. It's so great. I love Alec Baldwin was the narrator. I think he does a great job. That narration is great. So yeah, I'm a really, really big fan of this movie. Cody and Brian. I expect you both have great things to say about this.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'll pass.
And he's muted.
And Cody's muted.
Take a drink.
Just leave him muted.
He said, I love Gene Hackman in this. He's great.
This movie shit. I made it through 45 minutes of this movie. Funny is a weird
this movie
thing.
I haven't watched is terrible.
What?
I said this movie I haven't watched is terrible.
I said 45 minutes. You can't get me in 45 minutes. What the fuck's the point? If I could get 3 directors to stop working forever, 2 would have the last name Anderson and 1 would have the last name Burden, and we would never have to continue on this terrible journey of people thinking this person's a good director. Again, I famously met his English teacher in high school and said, "You did not do a good job because these movies are bad." So, no chance. You guys, comedy. You're right. Comedy is subjective, and you guys do not know what it is because Royal Tenenbaums is not funny.
Brian.
Oh, I have nothing to bother saying about this.
All right. And Muppet Movie. I really love the Muppet Movie. I watch this for first time in a while on Disney Plus with my family. Yeah, I love the tone. I just love how like melancholy it is and how like they're not trying to like appeal to kids or to anybody. Like they're just doing their own thing. I love these characters. I think whichever gets overlooked a lot is the technical aspect because they do such a good job with Muppets of making them seem like real characters. No one really thinks about the technical aspects like the puppetry of it. Just at that time, like just all practical, everything done on set. If it's still on Disney Plus, that prop culture show, I think it's called. They did a whole episode on the Muppet Movie. There's a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff in there and how they did stuff. But yeah, the music's great. The characters are great. All the cameos are great. The humor, for the most part, lands. I'm just really worried. I thought this would be a lot higher on your list because the Muppets don't get better from here. So the fact that you're probably going to have some Muppet movies higher, this kind of worries me. But everybody else is the Muppet Movie.
2011 is a fantastic film. Go. You correct yourself, sir. I'm not a Muppet fan. I don't care about them. I don't find it entertaining. I think it was funny back then to like, Steve Martin? Well, he's going to be the butler in the scene, and everybody's going to giggle and laugh.
Waiter.
Cool. Charming. Oh, sorry.
It's the funniest thing ever put the camera up. Like, go on.
It's why I don't play trivia. Like the Rainbow Connection, I think that song, I think there's just a lot of charming elements to the Muppets. I'm just a heartless bastard that doesn't fucking give a shit about a green frog. I just don't care. Sorry.
I love the Muppets. I mean, this is probably still the best Muppet movie, I think. I mean, it's no Meet the Feebles or, Happy Time Burgers. Or it doesn't have a puppet penis that Ethan would enjoy it. But yeah. But no, this is a great movie. I enjoy this one.
I love Jim Henson, but I ashamedly have never seen this one. I don't know why I've been meaning to for a long time. I will watch it, but I'll take this time to plug Farscape, guys. Brian Henson, Rocky O'Bannon, great show. Watch Farscape. Let's bring it back, guys. Come on.
All right, we're going to move on in your list here, but before we do, I want to bring Koho in for a second. Behind the scenes, there was a chance tonight I wasn't going to make the beginning of the show, and I know Koho sat through a lot of movies, and I don't want his time to be completely wasted. So, Koho, if you have any comment you want to make on any of these movies, so you watched them for a reason, Phil, you have the floor.
Go ahead.
Rounders was dope as shit. Thanks, Cody. That movie was really fun. I didn't realize that's where the pay the man his money comes from. So I was like, that was good. I enjoyed that. The first 25 minutes of Goonies is ass, and I gave up. And the only other one that I needed to watch potentially by looking at the list was Mr. Nobody. I read the description, said fuck that, saw the runtime and the lead star, and said double fuck that. So did not watch Mr. Nobody.
All right. Moving on then. Cody, let's go to your number 37.
Okay, my 37. I've said this before. When the Coen brothers, I'm not a Coen brothers fan, but when they hit really high for me. My next one is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, I had that at 91, I think.
So I find this movie hilarious, like from start to finish. Just I'm gonna quote a lot, and I'm gonna piss Brian the fuck off, and then if he wants to mute and cam off, go for it. I don't care. The dynamic between the three characters in this movie just is fantastic. Like We Thought You Were as a Toad. And when he gets baptized, I can't think of Tim Blake Nelson, when he gets baptized and he gets back into the car, he's like, all my sins have been forgiven. Even that Piggly Wiggly I locked over in Yazzer. I thought you didn't say you did that. Oh, that sin's been forgiven too. Just the back and forth between all of them. John Goodman selling Bibles and is just ripping off the guys. The whole story about the Dapper Dan and him trying to find like just hair stuff while he's running away. I think like the crime elements, the governor that walks around and like does the radio shows and is like how mean he is to the son. Like if your mother was still alive, she died of shame. And then the walk around. Oh, there's a counter. I'll do even more. I didn't know there's a counter of quotes. You got Bry in a trivia match because Koho didn't know this, but people saying that he got hit by a train, I think is hilarious throughout. But yes, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is a comedy that works through and through. And I think the music's really good in this movie. The music is excellent throughout this film. So yeah, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou.
Yeah, I want to add that it's one of the most creative adaptations that I don't think you're gonna have enough credit for of adapting the Odyssey, such a like formative text to all of storytelling that they can somehow make so fresh and do something so unique and unexpected that really only the Coens can probably do, bring it to this Prison Break bluegrass kind of environment, and all the elements they pull from the Odyssey like add the right level of surrealness to it that keeps you a little bit on your feet, engaged with what's going to happen, whether they're going to meet next. It's a great road trip movie of these three people traveling through this environment, because the best road trip movies have surprises every step along the way, and it does. And George Clooney is a great fit for the Coens comedy, and this is the best example of it.
This is probably my top 2, top 3 Coen brothers. Really like this one. It looks great. I love the way it's shot. The three leads are really great together, really funny. Clooney for me is hit or miss in comedy, especially in Coen brothers comedy, but I think just the way he plays, the way he does comedy for them just fits this character so well. The music is great. I love Charles Durning in this, who plays kind of a similar character that he plays in Muppet Movie, so a little connection there. But he's one of my all-time favorite, like that guy, character actors. So he's really good. Yeah, Goodman's great in this. This is probably my second favorite Goodman role in a Coen movie. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Everybody else on Oh Brother.
I have actually never seen this movie, but I really want to.
Of all the things you've seen, you haven't seen this. Yeah, this is the kind of Coen Brothers movie that I really enjoy. It's probably one of my top 3 or 4 favorite Coens, because I like when they do the kind of this brand of comedy. Yeah, I mean people have already discussed the Odyssey connections and George Clooney and them. So yeah, I would just echo everything they said. I really enjoy this one. So yeah.
Yeah, and they say that they never even actually read the Odyssey. They just kind of like knew the general story and based it off of that.
Yeah.
So Cody, you're 36.
We got to realize what Ethan does with movies, guys. He doesn't watch popular shit. He watches the thing that has like 800 reviews on Letterboxd and goes, fucking, that's it. That's the winner.
I had Edward Scissorhands on my list already.
Yeah, shocker. You make mistakes every once in a while. My 36 is Finding Nemo.
Yeah, and that last week. Yeah. Really close.
Growing up, Finding Nemo would never even be close, probably to my top 100. I like the animation styles. I think it's good. Like, I didn't connect with it as much. The moment I became a father, this movie takes on a whole other spin, and it is brutal for me. It is a brutal watch. It's got a lot of levity. It's got a lot of fun with it. I think the sequel of this movie is absolute garbage. But the original Finding Nemo, when you think of it just in its whole, what a father would do to get his kid back and try to save his kid, and goes through and a person that lost everything prior to that and has to cling to the one son that he's got remaining, the one kid, and shelters him. And basically, it teaches a lot of lessons in this movie, a Pixar movie of animated of if you hold a kid too close and hold a kid too tight, what the damage could cause from that. And like, you have to let them be their own at one point. And that's also another opening. I think Ellen gets a little bit annoying. I understand where that could be like a takeaway for most people, but I like the comic relief that she adds. I just like the adventures they go on, the different characters they meet. I think the entire shark premise is very funny to me. Them recovering from being they don't eat fish anymore. To the gang inside the aquarium at the dentist's office, and like the breakaway, and like him learning life lessons. And I love the ending so much, is when you can't do these things, just let me do them, and he does it. And it's a beautiful film. I absolutely love this film.
Yeah, I watched this like 8 times in theaters when it came out. I was like 14 years old, and me and my brother would go all the time. But this is secretly this is a real Zach and Cody night. This is when we get to be best friends and get by one, because I think there's some more to come later. But Finding Nemo, also another road trip movie. Also another Boston movie. People don't realize that the reef actually exists underneath Boston the whole time out on the Bay. But I think, the heart definitely really works, but also, once again, the road trip element is very engaging, very exciting, because you get to meet so many different characters, and it really helps the world development that Pixar is so great at. And what's better to do than like a world of the real world aliens, fish, fucking weirdos that fish are, that they get to explore. It's these are things that animators could have created, but they exist in real life. So they get to really have fun with those characters, and it looks just absolutely beautiful. It holds up. 20 years later, the animation, the ocean and water looks terrific. The way the sun, rays come through the water is really brilliant animated lighting. And as far as one of the most moving moments where it really pays off is when Nemo hears from the pelican all like the adventures that his dad has been on. He's like, and he had sharks and met turtles. So he's like, that was my dad. And it's just like that pride of what your like parents able to do for you. Parental pride is one of the things that gets me in movies most. So that moment of seeing Nemo realizing the loyalty that his father had to him, what he really means to him, is I find very powerful and an uplifting moment.
Finding Nemo's solid Pixar entry, probably top 5 for me in Pixar. Yeah, Cody, you're right. Most people talk about animated movies, they talk about like the lesson or the moral of it, and most of the time I'm like, it's so cotton candy. There's not much to it. This one's actually kind of a complex one. Just that idea of letting your kid, like you said, as a parent, it takes on different meaning, but just letting your kid out in the world and letting them, expose themselves to that danger, take that risk, and putting away that desire to protect them is really tough. It's handled well in this movie. The animation is great. There's so many really great looking moments in this movie. A lot of great characters. Dory's definitely the weak spot. I don't know who looked at that, watched this movie, and said, "Oh yeah, we definitely need to give her a whole movie. We need a whole movie of her." That's probably the worst part of it. And it's not terrible. It just does get grating. But just all like the different scenes, like the turtle scene, the shark scene, and everything in the fish tank is fantastic. So yeah, I think this was definitely a solid higher echelon Pixar. Ethan and Brian on Finding Nemo.
Well, once again, you kind of said everything I was going to say. It is like a probably top 5 Pixar for me as well. And really, like as a parent, that whole storyline really kind of it hits you a little harder once you have kids and kind of have to experience that same kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw this movie 3 times in theaters as a kid because of how much I loved it, and I still think it's great. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies. I think everything everyone else just said is true already, but I will add that the opening scene is one of the saddest scenes in a Pixar movie for me, at least. I mean, that it gets me every time when Marlin finds the one cracked egg. It's so sad. But yeah, it's a great movie. Finding Dory is awful. I don't know who enjoys it, and if you do, you have bad taste in movies.
I like it.
All right, Cody, 35.
If you thought quotes were bad and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, you ain't seen nothing yet. My number 35, one of my all-time favorite comedies. It is Mrs. Doubtfire. I do not care. I will die on this hill. This movie is fantastic. Robin Williams is one of my favorite. I'm getting a weird echo and it's pissing me off. Robin Williams is one of my favorite actors of all time. His comedic work, I think, is untouched. Why the fuck am I echoing? Please, somebody stop this madness. I just think overall, this is real. I can't do this. It's so loud in my ear. What is happening? Mute everybody. Mute, please. I don't know why. There it goes. I don't know who muted, but thank you if everybody did. Okay, sorry. Mrs. Doubtfire is one of those fantastic films about a father, losing his kids basically in the divorce, and getting separated, and him just being that over the funny guy, which kind of me a little bit of times at home is when your wife's really mad at you or you're fucking up and you just continue to crack jokes, and she finally kicks you out of the house. But then, I just think overall this movie has so much heart. When he takes on the role as Doubtfire, and he does the whole calling scene with her and be like, "Just your kids are well behaved. They need a nice thumping every now and then," and just have her keep hanging. Sally Fields keep hanging up the phone until Doubtfire finally calls, and the transition through how and I can't think of the actress's name that plays his spouse, the custody, figuring out when he sits through there and does all the voices in front of her. I do voices, and he's, "Do you find yourself a funny man, Mr. Hillard?" "I did. There was a time, but you have ruined all that today, my dear." Because she has no care for Robin Williams comedy. I can go on and on about Doubtfire, but I'll save everybody the quoting it. Doubtfire is great. It cost me a trivia match too, so it's still pissing me off, but it's a great film.
I don't know if I've ever watched this movie the whole way through, start to finish, but when it first came out, it was everywhere. I'd go over to my friends' houses and people, and people would just have it on. So I'd catch bits and pieces. I'm pretty sure I've seen it all. If I patch together everything I've seen this movie, I've seen most of it. We were talking off the air. I think it was off the air last week or the week before. I'm not a huge fan of Robin Williams comedy. I much prefer him as a dramatic actor. I think just when you let him off the leash and go crazy, it gets a little too, hyperactive child. I don't think it's horrible in this movie, but it's not my type of comedy. I like the more heartfelt moments with the kids and everything. That's good, that story. But the comedy just doesn't do it for me. It's not a bad movie. I think 35.
It was a run by fruity.
Really
I
high.
forgot to use my favorite quote. So yeah.
I think 35's very high for this one. What's everybody else think on Mrs. Doubtfire?
I agree with everything Kirk just said, especially the part about everyone having this movie on. I feel like the VHS of this movie just manifested itself in every household ever. I would go to my friend's house and there's just oh, VHS and Mrs. Doubtfire, like wherever. Yeah, I don't love it. I also don't love Robin Williams' comedy that much. I like him as a dramatic actor, like Kirk said. Cody gives me a lot of shit on this for having certain movies in certain spots on my list. This is in your top 40. Come on, Cody. Come on, give me shit for my picks.
You had fucking Sweeney Todd. I had Robin Williams. Back the fuck
Fair
off.
enough. We'll trade. That's fine.
My mustache is caught on my beard, and this is very painful. Ah! Okay.
So glad sex on the show.
That was the most Zach Ford moment I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is I don't put my head wait, we'll get to it. I don't put my head back when I drink sideways. I think it makes my mustache more vulnerable. Anyways, I love Mrs. Doubtfire. I think this could have maybe been in my top 100 if I've watched it more recently. I've seen it as an adult, but I agree that Robin Williams sometimes as a comedic actor can go a little too much, but I think this movie is like a quarter of a comedy and 3/4 a real drama. I think he hits the emotional moments really hard. I think this is really shines. No one's better at melding the humor with like deep empathy and melancholy and sadness than Williams is. I think this is a sign of it. I think it's a very mature for a kids movie. It treats kids like they can, handle some tough shit like we do. So I love it. Good pick. I'm gonna go cry now.
You're muted, Brian.
It's like I'm Cody or something.
I told everybody to mute, so it's my fault.
Oh yeah, it is your fault.
Take a drink.
I think I remember liking this when it came out. It's been a long time since I've seen it. The thing is, though, it's as much as I said like Aladdin was like perfect marriage of Robin Williams and his zany kind of off the wall, all over the place comedy. I think the next year Mrs. Doubtfire is kind of already the point where I'm like, okay, can we just bring it down a level? Let's just, we don't need to always let Robin Williams just go off and do his thing. It was an enjoyable movie, but I wouldn't rate it highly. But.
All right. Goody, 34.
Godfather Part 2. Okay. I'm fucking clear. Fuck all you. Where's my ace? Let me pull it out. You don't have it? You didn't have Part 2? Y'all fucked here. Okay. So, it's really hard. I'm going to be very kind of short with this movie because Kirk kind of knows this about me. The two are combined a little bit for me in watching wise. I just think there's a distinction between the two that I like one a little bit more than two. Michael Corleone is one of the best characters in film history. And this is a movie where they absolutely make him shine. And that isn't even a detriment to this film, I think, because I want more Corleone. I want more Michael. I love De Niro's play as Vito, but I almost think that could be a different movie. I think they could take that and put it in the Part 3 that everybody hates or dislikes and make it a prequel of The Godfather and just let Michael shine. Because when Michael's on screen in this movie, it is everything you love about the first one. I said it before, I think Francis Ford Coppola, like the 70s run that he was able to, directors wish they could hit that their entire career, and he did a decade, and he did it two years apart. I think this movie is, it's long, people won't like it. I think I could watch 4 hours of this movie, I could watch 5 hours of this movie. I think just even when the back and forth, the cuts, I think it loses a little bit. That's why it's not as high as a certain movie. Sorry, giving something away. But yeah, Godfather Part 2 is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I have to say it. I love this movie.
Tell me what you think about it.
Yeah, it's so good. I prefer 1 to 2 as well, but I mean, they're two totally different movies. There's two different things going on. The way this movie is structured is so great. I'm not even talking about like the going back and forth. I'm talking about the just the way his story is. I love the opening of this and how it contrasts. I've talked about this before. How it contrasts with the opening of the first one. The first one, they're surrounded by family. It's very Italian, and everybody's happy. The beginning of this movie, it's very waspy. They're surrounded by strangers, and everybody's miserable. It just shows you how much has changed. And then you have my favorite character in the movie, Frank Pentangeli's, like weaving in and out of that, like as a ghost, like he's haunting Michael Corleone with like that version of that past life that he's trying to expunge. And I think, I think Michael Gazzo is so great in that role, of just like that, like he's just like a holdover from the old movie, the first movie, into this one, and he doesn't fit at all. That again shows you how much things have changed. I used to when I first saw this movie, I used to like the De Niro's, like the flashback stuff better, but the more I watch it, I'm really more fascinated by the Michael Corleone stuff. The only reason I like Godfather better is because Godfather has you see the arc, and he starts out one way and he turns to something else. In this movie, he's all that other thing and just gets darker, and that's really great too. But I just prefer the arc. Did you want to add something, Cody?
Yeah, I totally forgot. Like the story when he goes to like Vegas and or Nevada and does his whole like plan, and he meets like the head of the casino and stuff, and Michael just gives him his demands, and the casino goes, "Sorry, doesn't work that way. We ain't gonna do the thing." And it's the difference of style between Vito and him. Because Vito will put a horse ahead in your bed and send a message that way. Michael could. And just leave you dead and no questions asked, and we'll move on from the story. Like when he's getting him aside and he sends him in, just like that scene, how he shoots these films, like 3 hours to grab your attention. Yeah, Godfather 2. Yeah, that's all I'll say about it.
But it has, I mean, like I said, there's so many other, I mean, like Lee Strasberg is, Hyman Roth is such a great character. And I just love how it circles back, like his whole thing is, he's pissed off about Mo Green's getting killed, and how that kind of, affects everything in this movie. But yeah, it's another movie where I watch it, and just like the first one, every time I watch it, I find something new. And it's so, beautifully made. Fantastic movie. Everybody else, you don't have this on your list, you're wrong, and I want to know why.
Well, I filed this under the movies like you guys have talked about, movies that I respect a lot more than I enjoy. Because I've talked about before how this kind of, the Italian mobster movies aren't my bag. It's aren't my kind of thing. But I completely respect it on a filmmaking level.
I blame my father because I did not see either Godfather until I was an adult. He never showed to me, but I saw Goodfellas like 50 times with him as a kid. So that became like the definitive gangster movie, to where, it owes a lot to The Godfather, but that came second for me. So it adds a different experience. I liked Part Two more than Godfather the first time I watched it. I have not seen Godfather Part Two in 10 years. I think we watch, because they are, like, I watched Godfather recently. It's so dense. That I think, I understand why it could be the greatest film, because on rewatch there's so much more you can get, within how the community functions, the family functions, that I think it deserves rewatches to really be in my 100.
I love this movie. This movie's great. I do like the first one better, and I haven't seen this one in a really long time, so I can't call it a personal favorite of mine, which I think is why I didn't make my list. But yeah, it is an incredible movie from what I remember. I love that scene when he grabs Fredo and he's like, "I know it was you." Like that whenever someone does anything to me, I always in my head just think "I know it was you." I don't know why, but I love that part. And yeah, it's a great movie. Sorry, it's not on my list, Kurt.
I didn't.
Sorry, get you nothing.
But Ethan, you get a chance to redeem yourself because we're going to your 37.
Well, thankfully, this will be a redemption for me, because my number 37 is, of course, Candyman. Now, I love Clive Barker, no secret to anyone in this community, and this movie is so Clive Barker. This movie is one that I think is misremembered by a lot of people, or just they don't realize what it actually is, because a lot of people think this is just a slasher movie, so they either haven't seen it or they don't really give it the credit that I think it deserves, because it's not a slasher movie. It is a psychological horror with some slasher elements. This is a movie in which Candyman doesn't show up until 45 minutes into the movie or something, and it's super tense before that. Virginia Madsen is great. You're following along with this kind of, she's uncovering the mythos of Candyman, and the Philip Glass score, which is just fucking incredible. It's one of the best scores I've ever heard in a horror movie. It's one of my favorite scores in general. It gives Candyman this like grandiose, like it's very like choral and like angelic in a way, and like it feels very it makes him feel very important and like have a lot of weight to him, and that just feeds into the whole idea of the mythos, which is what Candyman is after. I think I said it 5 times, so watch out, guys. But yeah, it's about mythos, it's about urban legends, it's about like race relations and class differences and gentrification, like, which I think was really ahead of its time message, even if it, you know, a couple of scenes are a little clumsy with that because it was made in the early 90s, but I think it really resonates a lot. And Tony Todd is so good as Candyman. And he's got such a great backstory that makes you really like sympathize with him. The character design is great with that bloody hook. The bees are incredible. This movie, it's a really great horror movie. It's really smart. It's not just like a goofy monster movie like a lot of people might think it is. You should watch it again with that lens. It's great. I cannot wait for the new one. I think it's going to be great. Nita Costa's follow-up. Jordan Peele produced and co-wrote it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Candyman, I hadn't seen in a long time. I rewatched it for a match I think we had. You had it on. You used this Clive Barker against me, so I rewatched it. And yeah, you're right. It does. I mean, there is a lot more to it than just than just a typical slasher. The score and the way it's shot is like really elevates it to almost to its detriment, because it's a very like street level movie, and then it has this grand score and like these like really big shots and artistic shots. So it's kind of jarring, but it's still, I think, in the long run, elevates the movie, makes it better. Tony Todd is great. This is like just a perfect role for him. He's really good in it. I wish he would do more stuff. And I like the way it plays with the idea of like the power of myth and the power of urban legends, and like how that can be the fear of that can make it real, and just that idea like the racial subtext is really solid. It's a good movie. 37 is really high for it though. 37 is super high. But it's I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie though. Everybody else on Candyman.
Kirk is being way too nice. This is an Ethan thing. He gave it 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. I'm calling some tomfoolery bullshit. What Kirk actually means is this movie was shit. That's what he actually says. Anyways, I haven't seen it, but you said Philip Glass, the Sesame Street legend that is Philip Glass, means I need to watch it.
I think Ethan's right in that I misremembered it, because I thought I remembered it being a good horror film, and I rewatched it and it was really quite boring, anticlimactic. I think it would have been better if it was a slasher film or a monster film, but it wasn't. So,
I'll go short. I've seen it a while ago. I get it. You say his name, and it's cool. Sounds fun. Sounds like 37 material. Average. For most part, inoffensive, not a complete waste of time. That's what Kirk Kolakowski actually thinks about Candyman.
I'll take it from Kirk, honestly.
To be fair, like someone said in the chat, 2.5 from Kirk is like a rave review.
That's true. That's best picture worthy.
So. Yeah.
No, it's once it gets to 3, you're in the safe zone. You're like, yeah, we didn't hate it. It's great.
You're not wrong. Ethan, you're number 36.
I am so excited to talk about this movie. This movie is Top Secret. Top Secret is, and I'm going to give everyone a little peek behind the curtain here. I did not carefully enough read my list, because this is my favorite comedy of all time, and I do have like 1 or 2 comedies listed higher than this. Whoops, I tried to switch it. It was too late, but I'm going to talk about it now anyway. Val Kilmer has never topped his performance in this movie. He is so charismatic and funny. And Kirk, it's okay. Drink some water. Breathe. This movie is very unfairly forgotten because of how much people love Airplane, and I love Airplane. Airplane's great, super funny. Kirk loves it. I know he does. I love it too. We're not talking about Airplane here. We're talking about Top Secret, which is, in my opinion, funnier than Airplane. It's not just really funny. It does have some of the best visual gags of all time. There's about a joke a minute, and they all hit. Not a joke a minute, maybe a joke every like 10 seconds, and they all hit. Every single one of them. There's not a single dud in this movie. This movie has two of, in my opinion, the most impressively directed scenes ever shot. And I'm not even saying that ironically. There's a scene in this movie in which they go to a Swedish bookshop, and because they're supposed to be speaking Swedish, the scene is shot and acted backwards and then played forward. Yeah. They acted out backwards and they play the footage backwards to make it. It's incredible. It's so good. Just watch that one scene, all right? If you don't want to watch the movie, just watch that one fucking scene. It's so funny. It's incredible. You can watch it reversed so you can see how difficult it was for everyone to pull that scene off. Yeah, I mean, there's another scene too that I mentioned. There's two scenes, right? There's one where Val Kilmer and the antagonist are having a fight underwater, and it just turns into a saloon fight, and they're all underwater having a saloon fight, and it's like goes on for a really long time. It's like really impressively made that they're underwater, like having this fight. Yeah, this is one of the funniest movies ever made. I'm sorry that it's so low on my list. It should be higher. Maybe top 10 material if I really had thought deeply about it. I'm not sure why I put it so low. The music's great. This movie opens with a Beach Boys parody called Skeet Surfing. Guys, Top Secret, come on. Come on, guys. It's so good.
I'm just checking my calendar here to see if it's opposite day because everything Ethan could not have been possibly been more wrong about every single thing he said about this movie. Val Kilmer, I just watched this for the first time this week, and I'm angry at you. I'm more angry about this than I am about the penis puppet. This movie is so bad. The first thing I thought, you're saying Val Kilmer, the first thing I thought about this movie is how like just flat and dull Val Kilmer is in this movie, and how just everything's happening around him. Like he's just there. He's like made out of wood. And just to say that this is, to suggest that this is better than Doc Holliday is maybe the worst possible movie take I've ever heard. And I know Brian Michaels. So, I mean, that's really saying something. The jokes are, there is a joke every 10 seconds, but none of them land. They're just like that horrible Zucker, just laziest, most obvious joke. Hey, yeah, I know little German, and it's a little German little person. Get it, little German.
That's one of the best jokes in the movie.
And you know, like all the French guys in the French Resistance, their names are just French words because that's funny, and it just goes on. But instead of just doing like one or two or three and letting the joke land, we have 15 French characters, and we give them all a different French name with a French word, and it's so hilarious.
That's funny as they go. This
movie sucks so bad. It's not. It's the whatever the opposite of humor is what this movie is. It's worse than Airplane because at least Airplane has some like good actors and like good comedic actors with some good delivery and timing. This just has Val Kilmer being like a nothing. It's so bad. This is awful.
Kirk, are you not impressed by that Swedish bookstore scene? Come on.
Not really. I was no. Anybody else want to talk about Top Secret? Because I don't want to anymore.
I don't hate it.
Kirk doesn't like this brand of comedy. He doesn't like Airplane. He didn't like Basketball. I don't like anything by the Zucker and Abrams people. It's been way too long for me to talk intelligently about this movie because I really don't remember a whole lot about it. Although I think I remember liking it at the time. I almost watched it this weekend. Actually, I wish I had now so I could talk more about it. But it was fun from what I remember.
I don't hate this movie. I think I appreciate the effort of it. I do have a admiration for the like joke after joke type movies. I said I fall more for the David Wayne, who's I think very inspired by the Zuckers than the Zucker brand themselves. I think, but something about this falls like flat for a lot of it for me. I put a lot of the blame on Val Kilmer, who I don't think can carry the comedic weight. He seems like thinks he's in a whole different movie. I think he actually thinks he is in like a Elvis Presley 50s movies and not actually able to like land the punchlines.
This has to be one of the longest 90 minutes of my entire life that I ever sat through. And I thought I would never have to talk about this experience again. My best friend in high school, we were talking about film. He's like, you have got to see this movie. Top Secret. And I said, oh, okay. It's like one of the funniest movies you'll ever see in your life. I said, sweet. I am also from the line of Airplane's a shit movie too. I'm glad Brooklyn Vail never has to bring it up because I really do not want to have to rip his heart out and tell him that it's terrible. But this movie's so bad. Oh, I looked over at 30 minutes. I said, "Can you check how much runtime's left in this?" He goes, "Oh, it's an hour left." I thought about just leaving then. I don't understand your love. You said this is one of the funniest comedies. You're right. I'm so glad we proved it tonight. This comedy is fucking subjective, and you are completely incorrect if you think this movie's funny.
Can I add one thing, Kirk, before we move on?
No.
This movie has a scene in which the characters are crawling, trying not to be spotted by German soldiers, and they bump into some boots, and the camera pans up, and they're just boots. No one's in it. I mean,
hilarious.
Guys, come on. Come on, guys.
All right. Ethan, you can't get any worse from there, number 35.
Well, we're going to try. Another great comedy, some might say. Synecdoche, New York, which was Charlie Kaufman's directorial debut, written, of course, by Charlie Kaufman also. The title itself is genius, brilliant little play on words. This movie is like just jumping into Charlie Kaufman's mind and being forced to think about yourself and your own life and be incredibly depressed and sad afterwards. It's an incredible, like, crazy trip through just like time and the emotions of getting older. And like, I know I'm only 25, but like, I'm still feeling like these things resonate with me. Like a giant theme throughout the movie, a running thing that happens is that time just keeps increasing. Like every scene, like Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is just like, you'll hear on the radio, they're just going through days. And eventually his life is just falling apart really, really fast. And I'm just, the older I get, the faster time moves. And it's just such a terrifying concept. This movie is, it's about Philip Seymour Hoffman plays a stage director who tries to recreate his life and the world around him. And it keeps getting bigger. And to do it, he then casts someone as himself. And then that character tries to recreate the world around him and himself. So they cast another version of him. And it just goes in and deeper in this crazy cerebral, like, it's not really a comedy, but there is funny. It's a lot of funny stuff in it. But it's really, really dark. It's really thought provoking. All the performances are incredible. Like I said, our Philip Seymour Hoffman. Tom Noonan is really, really good in this movie. Underrated actor. I love to see him pop up. He works with Charlie Kaufman a lot. This is the most Charlie Kaufman movie ever made, and I love it for that. I think it's a masterpiece, and I think everyone should watch. Not for everyone. It's not a lot of people are going to enjoy it, I think, but it really will make you think and feel some things, and it's great.
I have not seen this one yet. I want to. I know you're probably gonna get some flack for it, but like, I don't mind. I like Kaufman, and I like that, the high concept ideas. They don't always necessarily land, but I just like the attempt anyway. So it's what I will eventually check out. But anybody else on Synecdoche, New York?
I haven't seen it.
My favorite thing about this movie is how much Koho absolutely fucking despises this movie and how much he hates it. I have never seen it, but I don't want to see it because I want Koho to be the only reference of this movie and how much he hates it.
Cody, you should never watch it. You should stay away from Charlie Kaufman.
You will despise it.
It took me a while to learn a very valuable lesson, which is these very surreal, dreamlike movies I need to watch on my own to really go into it. Because I watched this and Tree of Life both with my mom and my brother, who just like were so like, what the fuck is this? Why are we wasting our time? So it really inhibited my own experience and rubbed off of me. Because
sounds like I need to go see movies with them.
Yes, yeah, you're as intelligent about watching movies as my 58-year-old mother. Good job. Open up to new art, please. And my mom's a smart person and a great movie fan. I don't mean that. She might actually find this and watch this. Who knows? I've never said fuck in front of her. She won't care, but this will be. She's gonna bring it up if she watches this. Anyways, I remember like not being real into it, but it's hard to vibe with such a vibe movie when those other people, because I do love thinking of ending things. I love Anomalisa, and I really, found the wavelength of these style movies. So I need to give it a second chance.
All right. Ethan, I think that takes us to your 34.
Yeah, let's just further cement me possibly having last place this week. We'll see. 34, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. As I've said earlier in the show, big Clive Barker fan. Love Clive Barker. Hellraiser is one of my favorite horror franchises of all time, even if there's not a lot of good movies in that franchise. There's only 2, really. But the 4th one's crazy and fun, too. But Pinhead is not the only thing about Hellraiser, even though a lot of people think he is. He's awesome, obviously. Doug Bradley, incredible in that performance. But Hellraiser 2, Hellbound Hellraiser 2, does something that I really love in horror movies, which is where the sequel takes place almost immediately after the first one and continues the story without just doing something else with a different group of people and killing them off, because that's so easy to do with horror movies, which is what the later Hellraiser movies become. But this one continues the story with begins with Kirsty in a mental asylum, and it vamps up all of the craziness from the first one. You get to step into this kind of interdimensional hell world that the Cenobites come from. You get backstory on them, which I'm always conflicted about, because I really love in the first movie how the Cenobites are like interdimensional, like travelers of like seeking pleasure and pain. And in the second movie, you learn that they were once human, which is really interesting, I think. And the practical effects in this movie are incredible. There's a lot of fun stop motion stuff at the end with the Dr. Chenard Cenobite. There's just so much fun gore and crazy concepts at play in this movie. Everything with like Leviathan and Julia coming back, she's such a good villain. She's so much fun to watch. She's arguably a better villain than Pinhead is, because he's not really a villain. He's just part of the mythos. And yeah, if you like the first movie, this one just like kind of gives you everything from the first one in a more outlandish, crazy way. It's just like a really good horror movie if you like crazy, gory monster stuff.
I disagree that this gives you more of the first movie. These are, we're talking about a lot of stuff I watched because of you, because of playing you in trivia. I watched Hellraiser 1, Hellraiser 2. Liked Hellraiser 1, and I didn't like this one because it broke all the rules. Like, I love like the world and like the idea that the first one set up, and this one's, and I hate when rules are so important in horror movies. You have to have rules and you have to follow them. This one just completely breaks all the rules of the first movie. Second thing I thought was crazy about this movie, I feel like they just like Barker just took his production team into a record store and they went to the heavy metal section and looked at the album covers, and he was like, just do that, because this movie isn't scary, but it's very metal. Like, they were just going for like that 80s metal aesthetic. But it's not like that scary. I think you're talking about the effects. I think a lot of the effects are kind of laughable, even by like 80s standards. I watched this. Kathy hates horror movies. She gets scared real easy. She doesn't like to watch them. She sat down and was, when I had this on, like the third act, her and I were both just laughing at it because of how like silly and ridiculous it looks. I hope you have, I can't remember, I hope you have Hellraiser 1 on your list somewhere, because to have this at 34 and not have Hellraiser at all on your list would be crazy. Yeah, but 34 is nuts. This shouldn't even be on your top 100, let alone 34.
It should be noted that Clive Barker didn't direct this one, but he did have something to do with it. So,
well, whatever he did. But yeah, you could tell because it's not as good. Everybody else, anybody else seen Hellraiser 2?
I will never watch any Hellraiser movie. So, and once you said 80s metal aesthetic, I just reminded myself that I want the 80s to fucking burn. I can't touch 80s metal aesthetic.
I don't think I've seen this movie since the 80s, because I mean, when it came out, I was like in this phase when I was just like renting every single horror movie that came out, and the bloodier the better, things like that. The only thing I remember about this movie is the one scene where somebody's like hallucinating, has bugs or maggots or whatever all over him. So he hands him a razor, so he starts cutting at himself and just bleeding all over the place. And that's all I remember about this movie. But it was nice and bloody, so I liked that at the time, but I don't remember anything else.
I've never seen Hellraiser, probably never will. But I love when certain movies get beat to death and others don't. Like Gremlins 2 changes the game, but that was acceptable. But Hellraiser 2, abomination. Probably both. Probably this one's correct, but still, just weird timing.
We can have that conversation off the air. It's going to be too long to explain it here. Brian, we're moving on to you and your number 37.
Speaking of sequels that are better than the original, my number 37 is Aliens.
Oh, Ethan, you might not lose this week. I take back what I said about the worst take ever.
One thing I really love about the Alien franchise is how they had a different director for each film, for at least for the first several. And you know, I enjoy 3 and 4 even to different extents, although they're definitely flawed. But I kind of liked how you kind of had this world, but then you had like a different take, a different director's vision of it. Now, obviously, a lot of people prefer the Ridley Scott, the more horror centric, whatever, of the first film. I get that. But for me, I was all in on, you know, Aliens as like an action sci-fi movie with James Cameron's version. I thought that the world he created was cool. I thought the characters and then where they took the story that had been established in Alien, I think went well. I think I love the addition of Newt. I mean, a lot of times you add a kid in a movie, it's kind of stupid, but here it's like she kind of served a purpose because Ripley became like this, you know, surrogate mother to her, and she was a surrogate daughter to her because she found out her daughter had, you know, grown old and died back on Earth while she was, you know, in stasis or whatever. A lot of people forget that Sigourney Weaver was nominated for Best Actress Oscar for her performance here. I mean, this movie actually got a lot. I mean, besides the technical awards, which it deserved for a lot of practical effects, things like that, it got nominated for editing. The score by James Horner, which I think is great, which was used in trailers for years after that. I thought the score to this movie was great. The other characters like Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, the late great Bill Paxton, one of his best roles, of course. Game over, man. There's your quote, Cody. You got that. But I mean, he was kind of one of the great, you know, cowards of cinema. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I know that people kind of have their own favorites, but for me, Aliens, I thought was the best one of the series.
Yeah, I think we were having this conversation in a chat room somewhere this week. Aliens Better Than Alien is like top 3 worst possible movie takes of all time. Ridley Scott created like this beautiful atmospheric sci-fi horror, you know, basically just like invented a genre. And then, you know, hack, fraud, and charlatan, James Cameron comes in and just turns into like generic 80s cheese. I did rewatch this year. I think I was playing you this time and I had to watch it for you. I realized I always thought I despised this whole movie. I don't hate the whole movie. I just hate the Space Marines so bad. Like, they're some of the worst characters ever put to film. Bill Paxton is completely unwatchable in this. Just listen to him whine the whole time. I'm just die. When he dies, it's the best part of that movie. If you could edit his performance out of that completely, it'd go up like a star, 1.5 stars for me, because he just is so unbearable in that movie. The rest of it's not bad. The only thing the thing I hate about it is I love the alien in the first one, just like this one unstoppable monster, and in this one they're just cannon fodder. And I think that really like wrecks the whole, you know, again, talking about the rules and breaking the rules. I think it just changes the whole game. And I like the one unstoppable monster a lot better. Sigourney Weaver is good in it. And just the continuation of the story is good. But the Space Marines are so bad. So terrible. Everybody else on Aliens.
So,
go ahead.
I battled for a long time of one, including one of these on my list. And I also had the opinion for a very long time that I liked Aliens more than Alien. Then I rewatched Alien again, and I rewatched Aliens. I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. And this is a guy that doesn't like horror. Ridley Scott, in that first one, is able to create something that is just like still creeps me out, the claustrophobic of that entire element of the first one. The second one's a lot of fun, but it's also the same thing that I feel about like Terminator and Terminator 2 now. Like, I love Terminator 2. I think it's really great, but there's something special about that Terminator 1 and the simplicity of what Terminator 1 is. Same thing with this one. How is one alien so hard to take down in the first one, and then everybody's just slaughtering all of them as many times? It just takes me out of it.
They were scientists. This was
I know, but it's still just like I still like it. I think it's a great movie. I don't think you can say it's a terrible movie. Bill Paxton takes a little rough for me, but they're separated by half a star for me. I'll just say that. I don't think it's terrible. I just like Alien more, but I battled with putting one of these on my list. And just both missed.
You know what this movie is? This movie is the Gremlins 2, the new batch to Alien, but only in the way that it jumps from the first to the second, not in quality, of course. Because this movie takes as Kirk has already said, like a genius, slow burn, sci-fi horror thriller with one terrifying alien. You're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? We won't talk about Alien too much, and then it's just like, there's a ton of aliens, which should be scary based on the first movie, but it's like, no, it's just an action movie with a bunch of fucking machine guns, like you guys said, and they're just mowing down aliens left and right. I bought this movie on Blu-ray before I had ever seen it because I had heard how incredible it was, and I was always such a huge fan of Alien, and I was like, damn, like I have to stop buying movies on Blu-ray before I've seen them because come on. I mean, this is just, it's a travesty that this is, in a lot of people's opinions, higher up than Alien. I don't even hate it that much. Like, I just think that compared to the first one, because of all the love it gets, and you can't separate it from the first Alien, like it's just, it like hurts me that what the franchise became after the first one.
I've been made to feel alone on this. I'm so happy Kirk hates Aliens because I gave this a second shot recently too, and because most movies I'm like, it's just not for me, and I just say no, I don't get this, and people tell me what they like about it, I just literally don't understand. I think they're watching a different movie, a movie that doesn't exist, because I think this is objectively fucking bad. I think visually it's ugly. It's just a bunch of fucking metal, and the stop thinking wet metal is really exciting and cool, and the acting is so over the top without thinking it's over the top, and Bill Paxton is not a great actor. And you just saying game over, man, just made me freeze, and how angry just that line is so stupid, and Bill Paxton delivers everything in the stupidest way possible. And they're all caricatures of performances and characters. They have nothing other than the rah-rah spirit, the toughness. I think Prometheus is a tons better than this. People who think Aliens is in a debate and not Prometheus are insane, because Prometheus at least has an interesting visual style and ideas. People say that but this is an allegory for Vietnam. I'm like, sure, but it doesn't fucking care about it or have anything to say about Vietnam. It's just using the military parts. James Cameron doesn't care. And I don't hate James Cameron. This movie is a disaster. You just, especially the extended cut, you just watch the fucking security gun just fire for 5 minutes straight at nothing. It's nonsense. Why do people want to watch that?
Does anybody else get the vibe that Zach is a counselor that's supposed to help you with your problems, but instead he just leans the fuck in and says, "You're fucking awful. What the fuck is wrong with you?" No help whatsoever.
I do want to be a lot better guidance counselor than teacher.
I do want to address something Joseph said about how if they hadn't done something different, it just would have been a rehash. How about don't make a sequel? There's no law that says you have to make a sequel. Just leave the first movie is perfect. Yeah, of course, but just leave it alone. That's all.
Also, this movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, Brian, you're number 36.
Do you want to continue, Brian? Shit.
Yeah, I do. My number 36 is 1998, I believe, Out of Sight. So this is my favorite Steven Soderbergh movie. I think this is a movie that, every frame of this movie just kind of oozes cool. Part of that's Clooney, part of that's the music, part of that's the direction, but it's just, this is a movie that really works on all fronts for me. It's based on an Elmore Leonard book, who the adaptations of his stuff into movies has been real hit or miss, but I think Soderbergh nails it perfectly. Clooney, like I said, we all like him when he does comedy, but he has different kind of brands of comedy. There's his over the top cartoonish Coen Brothers kind of thing, and then there's when he does things like Ocean's 11 and this, where he's just a cool character. There's funny lines and things, but it's not an overt comedy. The whole cast, I think this is the best thing any of them have ever done, probably. From Clooney to Jennifer Lopez, Ving Rhames is great in this. Steve Zahn is an underrated actor who I love in everything Steve Zahn does. The chemistry between Clooney and Lopez is off the charts. And it ties into the Tarantino verse because you got Ray Nicolette, played by Michael Keaton, who also appears in Jackie Brown. So that's kind of a cool plus to it. But yeah, this is just a movie that, it's not a lot like most of the stuff on my list, but it's just a movie that just I smile from beginning to end whenever I watch this movie.
Yeah, I like this movie. The cast is great. Clooney, this is probably one of my favorite Clooney roles. I think that like cool, like Clooney playing Clooney character really works here. And J-Lo, I think this is definitely the best she's done. And the rest of the cast, Ving Rhames is great. Don Cheadle, Albert Brooks, everybody's really good. It's just a movie that kind of comes and goes for me. I watch it and I enjoy it, but I kind of forget. I really don't have anything to say about it because I really don't remember a lot of the plot details. But it's good. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Trivia fact: this was me and Kathy's first date going to see this movie. So little special connection there. But yeah, good pick. Like I said, I don't know, top 40 for me again because this movie just doesn't stick with me. I don't know, it seems high. But everybody else on Out of Sight.
You dated your wife. You went to see this with your wife. It should stay there a little bit. Oh, disrespect.
Come on,
I have not seen this movie.
I also have not seen it. I'm sure I would love it.
Really?
But, yeah.
I think you guys have both enjoyed it. Ethan, you seen it?
Is Ethan frozen?
No, I haven't seen it. No, sorry. I said in the beginning. I don't think you guys heard me, but
More people should see this movie. It's really good. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think it's.
I've heard
you'd like it, Cody. Yeah, Cody. You'd like it.
I'm a Soderbergh fan. I have no excuse. I just have to put it on.
And okay, then Brian, that takes us to 35.
My 35 is Forrest Gump. This is a movie that I think a lot of people. I mean, it was hugely popular at the time. I think a lot of people started kind of turn around on it. I don't know if it's because they didn't like that it beat Pulp Fiction for Best Picture Oscar. Because I mean, you could not get two more different movies that year that were up for Best Picture. Because I mean, Pulp Fiction is kind of gritty and it's crime and it's kind of basically a bunch of bad people in the movie. And this is just the nicest, most innocent, sweetest guy in the world, just going about his life, weaving in and out through all these historical events and kind of showing everything that happens to him. But I mean, this is probably the last great Robert Zemeckis movie. I mean, as far as great movies, I mean, I know Castaway has its fans, and there's some decent movies like Flight and stuff. But I mean, he made Back to the Future and stuff like that, and then he made this, and then he got obsessed with motion capture and started in Beowulf and Christmas Carol and Polar Express and things like that. So he kind of, Robert Zemeckis hasn't really, done another great film since then. But then of course you got the cast and with from top to bottom, obviously with Tom Hanks being, his great performance here, but everybody across the board, but not just the cast, but the characters themselves. I mean, you got Gump, both the young version and the old. You got Bubba, played by Michael T. Wilson. Lieutenant Dan by Gary Sinise. I mean, these are just very memorable characters, and this is a movie, obviously, that's hugely quotable as well. But I mean, this is a movie that works as a drama, it's a comedy, it's a war film, it's a sports film because you got some ping pong in there. It's a political movie, it's a family film. It's just kind of a movie that everybody can watch, and I think it deserved, as much as I love Pulp Fiction, and I would have been fine if that won Best Picture. I think this deserved it as well because I think it's a great film.
Yeah, I'm not going to dump on Forrest Gump. I think it is rough just because in retrospect, that was such a great year for movies. And, I think it's agreed this isn't one of the best ones. But it's still, for what it is, it's like a good popular movie. Like there's just something, like you said, there's something for everybody. It's a likable character. It's a fun story, really good soundtrack.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I don't love it. I think it would probably. I don't even know if it's overrated now because, like you said, a lot of people do dump on it. Like outside of art, like in the real world, it's probably a little overrated. But I don't think it's a bad movie. Top 35, maybe high. But again, I mean, it's still a well-made film. Everybody else on Forrest Gump.
I'm going to
Great
talk
films.
for a long time to filibuster, so Cody doesn't have time to speak and say it's very problematic Jenny take that no one needs to hear ever again. I have very mixed feelings about Forrest Gump. I find it insanely engaging. And will I watch it like 3 more times in my life? Yes, because it's just like it's very, very watchable. That's what Zemeckis does. He makes exciting films, but it's also just like the most boomerific movie that has ever been put to the camera. In a lot of ways, and it's just like the historical importance that boomers play throughout time is evident throughout this, and he's using that character as an avatar for that mindset. And yeah, it's dealing with history is a little sloppy and a little like silly. Benjamin Button does it better. And I have nothing else to take, but it is like I think it almost at this point became underrated in the community, a little overhated because I think it's hard to hate on how just extremely watchable everything about it is.
Yeah, it is very watchable. I have seen this movie a million times growing up, and like everyone loves Forrest Gump. It's very fun, and it's got, it's like a good movie. It's like a very movie. The older I get and the more movies I watch, the more I realize like I don't love it because it is just very like this is a movie and we're gonna win Oscars and like like it feels very much like that, but it is good, and I did used to love it a lot, and now I don't love it a lot, but it's still good. And I do think Robert Zemeckis used to make really great movies, and he doesn't anymore, and it's upsetting. Sorry,
Cody. This movie has one of the best movie villains of all time. In this film, Jenny is a fucking monster, and you can't convince me any different. I love you. Oh, great. I fucking love you when I'm dying, and here's a child. That's a fucking shit sandwich. So here's the thing. I love Forrest Gump. I think Forrest Gump gets a lot of shit, and I don't understand it. Is it like retrospective, like playing like kind of the character, or how great 94 was? There's a lot that goes into it. I love watching this movie. It is so quotable. It is a lot of fun from beginning to end. I quote this movie so much, like so many times in my life. Like the ice cream scene still makes me laugh to this day. When he's like, got ice cream, and just puts it in the bedpan and just takes it away, and he's like, I've decided to be a shrimp captain. Well, you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. I still to this day will laugh hysterical at that. And he's like just the good heartedness of Forrest. The shit happens thing is still one of those scenes that I laugh really hard too. It's like, it happens. What shit? Mm-hmm. That dude made a lot of money on those t-shirts. It's good. Best picture, maybe. I don't care. I just think this movie gets way too much hate. Way too much. And Jenny is still a monster.
All right. Zach, we're going to move over to you for your number 37.
Do I do my 34?
I think you had one more.
Oh, 34. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was looking at the list wrong. Yeah.
34, a little bit different in tone, Forrest Gump. 34 is True Romance. So I've already talked about Tony Scott multiple times on this list. I love Tony Scott movies. And this one, written by Quentin Tarantino, I think probably one of my favorite Tarantino movies. It's not actually directed by him. It's directed by Tony Scott. And this is a movie that's just, it's kind of got that whole Tarantino feel to it. Definitely. This is kind of the first place most people kind of saw that. But I mean, it's another one of those movies that has a ton of great characters to it, a ton of great dialogue. The cast is great top to bottom. Not only people that you knew at the time, like Christian Slater and that, but a lot of people that weren't stars yet that kind of became stars after this, from Brad Pitt to James Gandolfini, Samuel L. Jackson, even Gary Oldman kind of blew up a lot bigger after this movie. Because his performance as Drexel, by the way, is great. I love him in this movie. But yeah, I won't say too much about this because I've kind of talked about it a lot on Your List Sucks and other episodes. But yeah, just another hit from Tarantino, from Tony Scott. Great cast. Go ahead.
Anybody else have this? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good pick. I like this movie. It's not my top 100, but it's definitely, I think it's a worthy movie. Yeah, it is a great script, great cast. That scene with Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken is so fantastic. That might be one of the best things that Tarantino's written. And I think it's to the detriment of the movie because Walken just leaves. He's only in that one scene, and you never see him again, and you're just waiting for that guy to come back. And it's kind of disappointing when he does it. But it's so good. And Hopper's just great. And, that's not his only scene. He's great in the rest of it. But yeah, a lot of great. Brad Pitt's great in his little role. Bronson Pinchot is really good. Sel Rubinek is just a guy. I know him. He was in an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. Kivas Faggio was a character he played. And like he just pops up every once in a while, and he's great. I love seeing him. He's fantastic. He's
basically
really
Joel
good
Silver in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to mention Paulo Yama mentioned it in the chat. The score by Hans Zimmer in this, the steel drums. I love the score to this movie because it's not what you'd expect from this kind of movie, but it fits perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really good. What's his name? His name, Tony Soprano. He's really good in it. So just like a great cast with a lot of like little bit parts coming and going in the movie. A lot going on, so the movie just kind of breezes by. A lot of fun. Everybody else on True Romance.
Yeah, this movie's awesome. I really like this movie a lot. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm a huge Christian Slater fan. He's awesome in this movie. Kirk is he mentioned Saul Rubinek. Anyone? Warehouse 13. That used to be a fun show. But yeah, no, this movie's great. I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I can't really talk specifically on it. That one scene Kirk mentioned is fantastic. I love the ending of this movie, and yeah, Gary Oldman obviously is insane. And it's one of the few performances that I really like. Oh my god, why am I blanking on his name right now? Michael. Oh my god. Tell me.
Rappaport?
Yeah, Michael Rappaport. He's very well used in this movie, and sometimes you get too much Rappaport. He's good in this movie. It's awesome.
I watched this for the second time very recently, and I find the plotting like so surprising. It stays fresh every time because I was like, oh yeah, Gary Oldman's the villain, and then like no, like that changes pretty quickly, and then it's Chris Rock is the villain. No, that changes. So the protagonist keeps switching, and I find it the plot is so engaging with the twists and turns. I think hard to guess. And Christopher Walken, should be one scene in every movie that exists. One scene in fucking Brother Bear, because Rock could be great. I don't know why that's what came to my mind, but it's a wonderful movie and such weird characters that Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater, I think make work in a way that's unexpected. So,
all right, good. I'm sorry.
Disrespectful. I love this movie. I am so mad at myself. It took me so long to watch this movie. I battled with putting it on because I'd seen it only one time and it was very recent. But I loved it that much. But I knew that Brian would have it. I already knew that he would have it on his list, so I would get to talk about it. So I didn't have to, try to find a place for it. But I think this movie could easily go into my 50s. I think this movie is absolutely incredible. Just the cast, how dark this movie is at times. Like, I agree with you. That scene with Walken and Hopper in that the trailer or whatever after they leave is just Walken is just the most intimidating one of the. That voice and stuff makes it comedy, but he is so intimidating in this movie. And Gary Oldman is. I love when Gary Oldman gets to play crazy. It's just so good. So yeah, great movie. Tony Scott does it again.
All right, so Zach, that does take us now to your 37.
My 37 is It's a Wonderful Life. Partially yes, Wonderful Life. All right, so my secret theme of the night is just like the classics of all classics, like a few of the most watched movies of all time, most popular movies of all time. This is one of them, and it's for a reason. Nothing has done sap better than It's Wonderful Life that Frank Capra does here, because the message now, if they try to redo it, can come off so sugary and inauthentic, but Frank Capra had the patience and put in the hard work to really make it pay off, because you spend like an hour and 20 minutes just developing the community, developing the character and the concern you have for them, and movies just don't do that anymore. Have all this time for setup before the fantasy elements take in, before you really understand what this movie is going for. But that first half, I think, is some of the best, because it's so sincere with his treatments of the characters, and so sincere with his kind of inner turmoil that makes it, very universal. That idea of, do you serve your own self-interest interest over others, and the nobility of being around it. And Fake Kappa has a very specific idea of American patriotism, and I think this movie deals with that the most graceful. I'm we're already at 2 hour mark, so the timer's back, so I'm cutting myself off now.
Yeah, this is another one everybody knows. I love this movie. I'm wearing the shirt right now, actually. It's fantastic. Jimmy Stewart is just so maybe one of the most likable, lovable characters ever on film. Just so great. And just the way Capra, the setups and the payoffs of this movie, where it goes from the whole movie is setting up that world, and then you kind of see it fall apart, and just how everything, there's so many callbacks, just everything that happened, just every little bit, every little character comes back. And it's so good. I love that world. I love Bedford Falls and just all the characters that exist there. It's so good. And it gets me every time. I watch this every Christmas, and I never not cry. It's when Mr. Gower walks in and he mouths Mr. Gower, I break down every time, every year without fail. I try not to, but I love this movie. It's just, it should be sappy and dumb, but you put Capra and Stewart together, and they are like sappy, dumb repellent. Like they just somehow work their way around it, and it's so good. I know Cody's come around on this movie. Everybody else, why did you have It's a Wonderful Life on your list? And you muted.
I'm not.
I have never seen it.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
This is a movie I saw like bits and pieces and scenes of, and I probably saw the whole thing in parts for like decades, but I never actually sat down and watched it till I don't know, within the last 10 years, probably, maybe a little longer than that. But you kind of said it. It's with Capra and Jimmy Stewart. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a little kind of corny and cheesy and what it is, sappy, but it kind of works. They make it work. You just kind of accept it's that kind of movie, especially just being an older movie. I think you tried to make it today. I think it would get really criticized for its sappiness, but it works for what they did with it.
The environment in which you watch films impacts how you feel about film. When I first watched this movie, I hated it. I didn't understand it. Ring the damn bell is how I quoted it a lot. Like, get the shit over with. I was wrong. I've said this before. I was wrong. It's not like as high as other people feel about this movie, but I really enjoy it. I can understand why it resonates with a lot of people. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. I understand why there's that appeal for it. I think I'm still trying to get over the bitterness, and maybe more rewatches will, make my heart grow a few sizes, bigger. So, no, good choice. I was wrong. So, yeah, that's basically what I can say.
All right, Zach, number 36.
Yeah, on paper, having this ahead of It's a Wonderful Life can seem insane, but I'm a huge fan of Obvious Child. Obvious Child, to me, should have been like Jenny Slate's Welcome to Hollywood. I think it's just such a dynamic performance. I was raised that the F word in my house was fart, and just like toilet humor was the lowest brow thing you can have. And Jenny Slate throughout this movie does a lot of like fart humor, shitty humor, but somehow she's like the only mouth I can hear it from and take it, because there's such like charm to it, such like silliness. But really, what this movie works is within the empathy it deals with her character and her situation. She is a struggling comic that is choosing to have an abortion after a one-night stand, and it deals with it so gracefully, in a way that really helps you fall for her character and fall for the romance, because it also is like straight up a romantic comedy through the abortion. And Jake Lacey has become one of the best love interests in a female-led romantic comedy. He's done it multiple times. He plays the same role in the High Fidelity TV show, and just does it so because he has such real charm to him. and such real like stand up like man quality that makes you kind of root for the romance throughout, because the payoff to the romance in the final 10 minutes and how it comes through is really lovely. But as I said, I think Jenny Slate is the reason to watch this movie. She's just so engaging throughout, and she needs to be given some more chances. I love Obvious Child. I can watch it every day. There's also her dad is like a Muppeteer. There's like puppet work, and so that obviously like bumps up a start for me.
Yeah, I'd never seen this. I watched it this week. And it was cool to see because I only know Jenny Slate from like Chipwrecked and the Venom, stuff like that. You never really get to see her be like just herself. And yeah, it is just from those opening scenes of her doing stand up. You really connect with the character. It did get a little grating for me after a while. Like it started to get like a little bit one note, but it was still like I never was like tuned off by it. The relationship works. I don't know the guy's name. You said his name, young
Jake Lacey.
Yeah, he's really good. I like him. I really like him in The Office. I think he kind of, like you said, he kind of plays the same character, and he does it well. I feel like that this kind of relationship has been like done better. I think like having this in your top 40 seems high.
Better abortion romantic comedies, yeah.
No, well, I mean just the relationship in general, but it's yeah. I think it's. I do think it's again, it's not bad. I like her. I would like to see her do more stuff because, like I said, I don't think she's like amazing in this, but I think there's like the seed of something better. So I'd like to see her do more from this. Everybody else, anybody else seen Obvious Child?
I have not seen it.
I saw this because I really like Jenny Slate, and I kind of want her to be, in a lot of movies and a lot of movie stars. I was actually kind of disappointed by this movie. I think it's just, I don't know. It just didn't resonate for me. It wasn't, I guess, what I was looking for in it. But, I still enjoy like the performances by it. Jenny Slate still, I wish she would still have a better chance to break out in Hollywood. Although right now the best thing she's ever done is a voice in Big Mouth on Netflix. Check it out. But yeah, it was okay.
This is one of my favorite movies that I've seen for YLS. I don't remember the episode. I think it was Funniest Movies of the 2010s. I don't know if that's no one quote me on that, but I absolutely think this movie's hysterical. And I really love how they able to tackle the dramatic moments of this movie. So yeah, I figured it was going to be on here. I just didn't know it was higher than It's a Wonderful Life. So that's an interesting take. But I have them rated the same, so that works for me.
All right. Zach, number 35.
And my 35 has been, yikes, previously. It is The Social Network. So, The Social Network is the best combination of writer and director you could have because they don't seem natural on paper. But they balance out each other's weaknesses so well. I think Aaron Sorkin, to me, is showing why he needs a great director in his recent directorial offerings that he has given, because he needs someone to tone down the earnestness of his writing in the right way. And almost David Fincher's like the opposite of earnest. He needs someone to add like some life and warmth to his direction sometimes, and this all comes off in Social Network because this is by far the funniest David Fincher movie. I really like The West Wing. Anyways, this is the funniest David Fincher movie you could have, and it's also just like firing on all cylinders. It moves really quickly for a movie about people talking about web development. That's so exciting, and they let you know the movie you're in for right away. Rooney Mara is one of my favorite one-scene performances in any movie, just in their opening breakup conversation. And it's just so exhilarating, so quick, and so kinetic in its filming. And Dave Fincher is so ingenious with how he makes the filming very physical and kinetic for something that's so stationary inherently. And that goes with the score, too, adding a sense of tension that Reznor and Ross bring to it that is needed for a movie about web development. That's my time. But it's immensely watchable that you can never expect something from a book about the founding of Facebook.
Who else had this?
I had it at 55.
I had it at 42, I think.
All right, then Brian, you're first.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a movie that had no right to be interesting. I mean, it's a movie about making of Facebook. I mean, how can that be interesting? But Aaron Sorkin got a hold of it and turned out this great script. Now, Aaron Sorkin, especially his dialogue, can sound really quite unnatural. I mean, watch everything from West Wing and all these things. People don't talk like that necessarily, but you kind of wish they would. It's kind of like how you wish you could talk and the things you wish you could come up with on the spot. And so it just completely works. And I think Fincher does a great job with it here. Fincher was an odd choice for this movie, or is an odd choice for Fincher to make for a project to make. I'm not sure which way it worked. But you're kind of like, how's his kind of dark style going to work with this movie about Facebook? But then you kind of saw the movie and like, it completely works. Same with Jesse Eisenberg. I mean, a lot of people don't really like him in this movie, but I think that's kind of the point. He's supposed to be kind of an awkward guy and kind of unlikable. He kind of pushes people away and just kind of uses people and throws them away. And so I thought his performance was great in it. And so, yeah, this is a movie that I didn't know what to expect going in, but I came out really loving it.
Yeah. So this movie is very highly touted in this community, but it's one that deserves it. I think it has I think it's so rewatchable. I think it fucked Eisenberg's career up because he plays Zuckerberg in everything he's in now, which is unfortunate for him. He's just that neurotic guy in everything he does, which is whatever. Well, at least he did it in this movie and then got out. I think the standout is Andrew Garfield in this movie. I think he's fantastic throughout this. When he goes through all the struggles of basically what's happening, Sean Parker taking it away from him, and I still love the line, is this about the chicken? No, it's not about the fucking chicken. Just because that's not what it is. We've used the quote in YLS for so long. I'm coming back for everything. And I just love him sitting across from it. Do we have your attention? You have the bare minimum. Basically just tells him to fuck off. You don't deserve my time here, and I don't know why I'm here. So, yeah, it's a fantastic movie, and, yeah, it's been talked to death, so I'll stop.
Yeah, I've talked about this before. This movie hits a snag for me with Eisenberg. He's definitely not my guy. I'd love to watch this movie in an alternate universe where somebody else plays that role because everything else works so well. I love Garfield's great in it. I think Justin Timberlake's even good in it. Standout for me is Armie Hammer. I love his characters in this movie. I think he does it so well. But yeah, I'm not an Eisenberg fan. I think he plays his character a lot because I just get a feeling that this is him as a person. And like Brian said, that unnatural tendency of the Sorkin dialogue, I think it's a bad combination because Sorkin dialogue can sometimes sound like it's being read, and Eisenberg always sounds like he's reading his dialogue. So I feel like, especially that opening scene with Rooney Mara, he might as well have a script in his hand. I don't feel like I'm watching acting. I feel like I'm watching a table read. But the more I watch it, the more I like it because I'm able to get past that. But he's a big stumbling block for me. So Ethan, you're the only one odd man out here. What's your take on Social Network?
It's a great movie. I love Social Network. I've only seen it once or twice. I do really, really like it. I am not a huge Sorkin fan, to be honest. And the reason, and it's also the reason this movie is almost perfect for me. I think it's fantastic, but I just I hate that every single person in every single Sorkin movie, and this is one of the worst offenders of this movie is everyone is the wittiest, smartest, quickest talker. And it takes me out of it because I'm the characters for me start to bleed into one another sometimes. Their characters are very different and the performances are great. I actually disagree with Kirk. I do think that Eisenberg is incredible in this movie. I think it's perfect for who he is, and it's one of the few movies I think he's just he nails. But it really is tough for me to just hear every single character being super fast and witty and smart talking. It's it gets exhausting for me. It's not everyone talks like this, and I know that it's the style, but it feels like a very grounded movie with dialogue that should not be given to every character in the movie. Paul, those movies are heightened reality. This movie is not. It's a regular grounded movie with that ridiculous dialogue.
They're also a lot more
heightened reality.
Yeah,
Tarantino movies and his dialogue are a lot more fun.
That's true. It's meant to be fun. This movie's supposed to be taking itself seriously.
And Zach, Zach Rudd, you're 34.
I assume, unless I'm crazy, this is about to be yikes and be the epitome of our fifth combined movie on Zach and Cody night. And I don't think he realizes I love this movie this much. It's Remember the Titans.
Yikes! That's so exciting! Holy crap!
Okay, so that takes us to the bottom three. We're going to go round robin here, starting with Cody and his number 33.
My 33 is, my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, Gladiator. I fucking love Gladiator. I don't care what anybody says. Should have won Best Picture, not that great, blah, blah, blah. This has everything that I absolutely love in this movie. That entire speech, I've seen this movie probably 15 times in my entire life. And when he says, I'll have my vengeance in this life or the next, fucking battle scream. Scared my 11-year-old the other day. It was a great time because I think it's that great. I've watched that speech numerous times. I think Joaquin Phoenix plays a perfect fucking asshole like in this movie. To have that back and forth between Russell Crowe, I think I love the gladiator fights throughout this. I love the beginning battle that they show in that kind of war that we don't really get to see in movies. They don't really show that side of war, which I think is great. I hope Thomas Scully shows back up in the chat at some point. There he is. There's my fellow person. I know he loves this movie. Yeah, I can't speak any higher of Gladiator. I think this movie still holds up really well. Yeah, those battle scenes, and then when Joaquin just does the thumbs down, and just unleash it, it's so good. I'll save it because I know we're running short on time a little bit.
Did anybody else have this?
Yeah, I had it. I don't know exactly what number. I think it was like 45. Yeah, I mean, this is a movie that I love unashamedly. I think that from the very beginning, that action scene shows it's kind of in that Braveheart vein. These big, massive action scenes. I thought they pulled that off very well. But then it gets to be a much more personal story between him and his family. The actual gladiator scenes are great, but even though those aren't even really the focus of the movie. I mean, although those are sprinkled throughout the movie, it's not just about the fighting; it's about the character. The only flaw of this movie is that they had him be the Spaniard, which obviously Russell Crowe is not. But you just kind of overlook that because it's just I don't know why they didn't just change the character so he wasn't a Spaniard in the movie, But yeah, I mean, I think it deserved Best Picture. I don't know of anything else that year I would have given it to instead. I think this deserved all the awards it got. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else to say. I do remember seeing this came out during a period when I got to go to a lot of these exhibitor screenings, which sometimes were like a week before a movie came out, sometimes they were months before. And I remember seeing this and it wasn't coming out for 3 more months. And I was so mad because I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And I love this movie so much. I'm like, just when it comes out, just see it.
No one else had this, right? We're good. Okay. Yeah, this is a solid movie. I just like it's like a throwback to those old style sword and sandal type of movies, and it does it really well. And I think it's just a great modern version of that. I don't know, it's something about it. It's almost like Braveheart, where I used to love it, and as time going on, it just kind of the shine's off a little bit, not in a bad way. It's not I don't think it's bad now. It's just not something I get excited about. Joaquin Phoenix was absolutely robbed for Best Supporting Actor. I don't think I've ever been more angry watching the Oscars than I was when he didn't win that award. He was by far the best performance of that year, and he definitely deserved that. He's so good in this, and yeah, the action scenes are great. That opening battle is fantastic with all the fire and everything. So again, it's not a movie that I get super excited about, but you guys have in your top 100. I mean, that completely makes sense. Ethan and Zach on Gladiator.
This is a movie that I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I have never seen this movie from start to finish. And I'll explain why. Hold on, I'll explain why. It's a movie that is so ingrained in pop culture that I know it very well and I've seen multiple scenes from it for so long that I feel like I've seen it. So I'm never oh, I finally have to see Gladiator, you know what I mean? It's not because I don't want to. And I swear I'll watch this movie at some point. My brain subconsciously feels like I've seen it, so I've never sat down and watched it. But I know I have to. I'm sorry to everyone that I haven't seen this movie yet in completion, but I will.
I like Gladiator enough. I have nothing interesting to say. I think it's super masculine movie. That is not always my type of thing. You guys need to stop on this Benicio del Toro fucking blasphemy. Traffic's really good.
It is awful. Trash.
Now, I'm a big fan of the Coliseum, like as a historical landmark. So that's cool to this movie.
Well, all right.
Traffic is awful. Stand by it.
Ethan, what's your 33?
My 33. Mulholland Drive.
Oh, finally.
I actually thought Zach might have yiked me there, but this movie is. I love David Lynch. I love the weird, like sinister tone he strikes with all of his movies, and this one is very, very sinister, and it's all like under the surface, and it just makes you feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's funny, and it's kind of like it's just so engaging, even though there's not a clear plot line. There's this mystery of this actress, and Naomi Watts' character, like trying to figure out what happened with this actress and who she is, and the way that all wraps up, which I won't spoil, but like it's just I love it. I think it's great. This movie strikes a really good balance. It leans a little heavier into the David Lynch like surrealism, where like I said, there's not a clear cut thing, but it is. I just love watching it, even if you don't understand everything. Like I don't understand everything in this movie, but I love experiencing it. I think David Lynch one time compared movies to music, where he said like you don't have to understand it to enjoy the feeling it gives you, and this is one of those movies for me. People have talked about this to death, but the audition scene, Naomi Watts, it's like one of the best acted scenes of all time. It's incredible. She's so good. I think she needs to, I don't know what happened to her career, but she needs to be in more movies. And Justin Theroux as this like sleazy Hollywood director, also incredible. I love Justin Theroux so much. He's like one of our best actors working today, and I love early young Justin Theroux just going crazy in this movie. And it's got those great Lynch touches where it's like those two guys sitting in the diner and talking about that weird dream and the offbeat, like seemingly like childish editing of certain like sequences, like the I think it opens up with like the people dancing with the colorful backgrounds that just looks so cheesy, but in like a very intentional way. The stuff with like the smoking guy in the darkness and the cowboy. I love this movie. It's such a great experience to just let it wash over you and the weirdness and creepiness of it.
Yeah, there is David Lynch that I like. And there's movies of his I enjoy that have that surreal feeling, but like still have something else to them. I hate this movie so much. When we did top overrated of the 2000s, this is my number one because I just don't get it. And it's one of those movies where it's like I said, this is just like let's throw as much stupid stuff as on the screen as we can. And eventually people will think it's smart because no one's going to just assume that no one could ever throw this much dumb stuff on the screen for no reason. So obviously it means something. If you read about this movie, what this was a rejected television pilot that Lynch recut as a movie. So I mean, basically, it's going to be the next whatchamacallit? Twin Peaks. So he had no idea what any of this stuff was. He was just going to make it up as he go along. So I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just a bunch of like loose threads. He's like, yeah, here, just try this, and I can enjoy that, like if it has a point, but there's just no point to it. Again, it's just like here's a bunch of weird stuff, and it's weird. Look how like crazy and weird and smart I am, and people. No, it's not good. You're having a rough week, Ethan. Everybody else on Mulholland Drive.
So I have a lot of people that save me when watching movies. It could be from Paul to Boatman to people on the show. Basically anything Ethan ever talks about, I'm pretty much out. It's no shocker that he's never been on the show until Kirk was the host. I'm just going to point that out there. I don't think he wanted to show up on that. I heard about this movie a lot. I just have never watched it because people said, Cody, please stay the hell away from this movie. So I didn't. But I'm going to tell you something. In selling movies, maybe you shouldn't say lay back and let it wash the weird and stuff all over you, because that's creepy to me, and I'm not on board. Like, no thanks. I don't want anything to wash all over me while I'm watching a movie. So, please.
It's like the worst pickup line. Just what the weirdness washed over you.
Not pick up so much as abduction line. It sounds like. David Lynch might be my least favorite director ever, so I'll just leave it at that.
I made a huge mistake as far as Lynch is because the only two movies I have seen by Lynch is Eraserhead and Dune. Dune's fucking boring, and Eraserhead's what I watched first, and that was like the biggest cinematic mistake I've ever made because that movie is just like nonsense, and it's hard to take in when you don't have like any entry level into what this director does. So it has like made me hesitant to watch other Lynches. I feel like this one I might be able to vibe with a little more. I think there's a little more story. It's not just purely a like center experience that Eraserhead is. That I'll give it time.
Zach,
this is the guy who did a research. Oh, fuck that. Hell no.
Zach, I'll tell you now, you may like it, you may not, but there's no story. I'll save you time right now. If you're looking for a story, there's no story. All right, that takes us to Brian's number 33.
Yeah, nobody here is going to yikes this one. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Yeah, I won't spend too much time on this because, spoiler alert, this is not the last time you're going to hear about Pirates of the Caribbean. But yeah, this is the one. I mean, this one kind of was the conclusion to the original. The first three were basically a trilogy, and a trilogy that I loved all three of these movies, and I thought this one was, epic in scope. It was the biggest, kind of the longest, but it kind of needed to be because it kind of brought everything together. All the different storylines kind of got wrapped up. Is it a little bit bloated in parts? I will agree that yes, it is, but I still enjoy it. There are scenes like the Jack with the crabs in the desert with his little mind trip could have been cut. I will say that, but even this stuff like that, I'm just nitpicking at it because I love everything about this movie. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm going to talk about more pirates later on, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
I will agree with you on one thing, Brian. Out of all these movies, it certainly is the longest. And you feel every second of it. The first movie, I love the first two. The first movie is just like its own little like tight story, and it's its own thing. Second one is actually my favorite. Expands the universe and kind of gets a little wacky. And it's almost like they watch like the second movie is a test. Like they have like that 3-way sword fight, and they have the stuff with the skull gel and everything, and like they were watching like, okay, people bought that. Okay, now just go nuts, and like it just got ridiculous after that. Like like the battle scene at the end in the third act of this movie is just it's just like a kid in a bathtub smashing toys together. It's ridiculous. And yeah, that's some of those scenes like that scene with the crab with the crabs in the desert. That I was angry that entire time. Aren't you angry, Kirk? What's that?
When aren't you angry?
Well, angrier. But no, I'm not. I wasn't able to watch the first two movies because I love the first two movies. But that's such a letdown because I love the first two movies so much, and this just was just a crap ending. So everybody else on World's End.
Loving the second one is crazy enough because that movie is just like endless and just like 45-minute long action scenes and like tune out in 5 minutes. And this one just makes no sense. And this is where I ended me watching any Pirates movies. After I left the theater, I pretty much said I was out for the rest of the series, and I stayed true to that because I had no idea what was going on. I was a huge fan of the first one, at the time. But yeah, this is nonsense.
When I was a kid, the first two of these movies were like two of my favorite movies ever. Like I was obsessed with this franchise. I loved them so much. And then when this movie came out, it was like the greatest thing ever for me. Like it coming out because I was like, holy shit, like this is like my favorite movie series ever. Like, it's the conclusion, it's the trilogy, whatever. And it's one of the first times I can ever remember feeling like immense disappointment in a movie and not liking a movie as a kid. Like I'm going to admit this because I have no shame. I cried after this movie because of how much I didn't like it. I was so disappointed as an 11-year-old kid that this was the ending of my story that I loved so much that I cried.
I mentioned my age. He keeps talking about being a kid.
And my brother made fun of me because he was like, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, because of how it ended. It was so bad. I think that because actually I'm with Kirk. Like I don't care how stupid it is. I love the second movie too. I think it's really fun. And the way they do Will Turner in the end of this movie, this trilogy, is so upsetting and unfair and unnecessary. Like I love downer endings. I love, like it just made no sense to me. It was like such a stupid ending. Oh God, I'll never forgive Gore Verbinski for what he did to me with this movie. It gave me a trauma. It like showed me movies could be bad, and it's I'm sad again thinking about it.
Okay, I love the first two. I think the first two are great films. They're a lot of fun. I watched the trilogy with my son. Halfway through, he asked me to turn it off. I said, no, we are completionists. We have to watch this, even though I turn off movies. Then the crab scene came, and he asked if that's what happens when you take drugs. And I said, possibly. I said, I'm not a big partaker, but you could possibly lick some crabs at some point. I don't know what the fuck happens. This movie is so fucking bad, and it's so convoluted. The first one, they're dead. They have to be restored. The second one is a fucking Davy Jones that's under the sea. And he was off duty, I guess, during the first one because we don't see the Kraken at all, but that's whatever. We won't talk about that shit. He was sailing somewhere else. The third one, we have a fucking politics ring that we never get to any fucking ring talked about for 45 minutes. And then the ending, now we're just supposed to believe that they're going to just fight on this big rotate. Everybody says just get to the end. I fell asleep. I went to the midnight screening of this. I passed out. And then they had to wake the usher tapped me and said, you can't sleep here. I was out. I don't even remember. I watched the final battle scene at home when it came out. This movie shit. Like, stop. The 33? What are we doing?
It's rough. All right. Zach, let's go to your 33.
I'm going from that shit show to one of the most beloved movies of all time, Casablanca. It's my 33.
Yikes.
Good for you.
Say shit.
All right. Cody, 32.
I mean, this might be X. I have no idea. It's higher than Jurassic Park. That's my fucking
Yikes.
Yeah. Wait, no, I already had it. Shit. Brian.
Well, it's still yikes.
Yeah.
Thank God Brian had that movie higher than Jurassic World.
You fucking talk about.
Is that the only movie we all have so far?
You literally talk about at World's End, and the pink-haired guy gets all flipped out in the back and doesn't know when to click shit. Fucking get your shit together, all right? There'll be more pirates.
He's the pirate of all the seas, Cody. What's wrong with you?
Oh. Fucking drink your rum and shut the hell up. Okay, let's go.
Ethan, 32.
All right, Kirk, let's do this, man. Number 1 this week. We got this. 32, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yikes.
Ryan, you're 32. We can talk about anything.
Guys, we saved a lot of yikes for the end, didn't we?
We're saving time right now.
This one, Cody might yikes. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I'm just going to save everybody.
Good. That's the best thing that can happen right now. So yeah, this is a movie that when I first saw it, actually, I kind of didn't like it all that much. I think because at the time, a lot of people were just like, going crazy about it and raving about it. And the style was kind of a little much for me. But I don't know if I was in a bad mood that day or what, because I've liked it more every single time I've watched it. And it goes higher and higher and higher on my list. I got to see it. They put it back in theaters for the 10th anniversary, although it's the 11th because it was postponed a year because of COVID. But back in like Dolby Cinemas, and it just looked awesome there. And this is a movie that's kind of all about the visual style. I mean, Edgar Wright gets to go crazy with his thing here, and every kind of scene, it looks basically like a comic book. And if you have the comics that the graphic novel is based on, you can kind of basically take each panel and you can see it in the movie. I love the way they kind of directly translated the whole thing. Another movie that has just assembled a great cast. I mean, Michael Cera, he's fine as Scott Pilgrim, but actually he's the weakest person in the cast. Because you got Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I love and will watch in anything, but Ellen Wong as Knives Chow, which is just adorable. You got stars like Chris Evans in there, Anna Kendrick, Aubrey Plaza, but also like Mae Whitman and Brie Larson. Kieran Culkin, I really like in this movie. It's a roommate. He reminds me a lot of like a young Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, which is kind of weird for me to see that. It's probably my favorite Edgar Wright movie, which is saying a lot because I really like a lot of his stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie that, again, that's been talked about to death, and Your List Sucks, so I won't say a whole lot more about it, just except to say that I just really love this movie.
I really try to not let this community thing color my perception of this movie, because I watched it before I met any of you people, and I liked it. I think it's a fun movie. Michael Cera is another guy I can get great and you can't get sick of, but he's perfect in this role, and it's perfect use of him. And just see like Edgar Wright do something like this, it's not something that you're used to. You're used to the other stuff he does. But this is really unique and a real great style. I don't think anybody else could have done exactly what he did with it. It's just a real bold movie to make it like that. But like you said, great cast. It's a great looking movie. The fight scenes are a lot of fun. So yeah, like I said, I mean, it gets a lot of flack because of just the blowback from the overhype that's had. But I think it's fun. I think 33 or 32 may be a little high, really high. But I mean, it's not a movie I'm going to say it's ridiculous to have your top 100. Everybody else you people, Paul, you especially. Everybody else on Scott Pilgrim.
I like this movie a lot. I love it. Scott Pilgrim is great. I know that it does get circle jerked in this community, but I feel like
he's a single jerk by himself.
Yeah, he's single jerk. But I do feel like it deserves the circle jerk treatment because I think it's a really fantastic movie. I have read the comics, and like Brian said, it's translated so well. It's like one of the best adaptations of something I've seen. It really catches like the tone of it and even like the visual style. It's a lot of fun. The way Edgar Wright plays with like music and sound design in this, and the visuals and everything. It's great. It's very stylistic and it all works for me. Michael Cera is fantastic in this movie. Brandon Routh cannot go unmentioned. He's so good in that one scene with the vegan police, which I think is also hilarious. I can't wait to hear Cody go off on this one.
I once watched this.
Go ahead. I like this movie enough. I think it ages fairly poorly. It's something that's like fresh when you see it, especially in 2010. I was 21 years old, and you haven't seen anything like it. But you rewatch it, and the gimmick starts to wear thin. The character starts to become a little more problematic, similar to I don't know words of anything right now. 500 Days of Summer, to where it's almost like this person creating a false idea of a woman. They never really treat that female character very fairly. It's always just fully out of their dream, and so it just doesn't hold up as much. But I enjoy it enough. It's still like engaging directing. It's just all over the top.
It's like a video game, guys. Like you just gotta see like the visuals and stuff. It's like so cool. Like the soundtrack, man. The action sequence is like so cool. Yeah, fucking none of that exists in this movie. Scott Pilgrim, can we all just say it is kind of a shitty character? Like, don't you all just want to get him to get his ass kicked the entire movie? That's what should happen. He's terrible, and we're all walking around him having to battle these exes. I just hope he gets his ass beat by all of them. I wish other movies from Edgar Wright would get talked about more. Bring on Baby Driver. Talk the fucking hell about that movie. Let's talk that one up. Or like all the other, that's fine. Even his version of Ant-Man that never came out, probably better than this. This movie is bad. I watched this with the bag man, the confidential man, with like 3 other people on call, and I hate my life. I will never watch this movie again. This is shit.
All right.
I wish World's End was higher.
Cody's voice is starting to crack so much.
I'm going through puberty round 2.
Do not want to see the outcome of that.
Zach, what is your number 32?
I didn't realize that I'm so fittingly wearing the only Fandom shirt I own. This is not intentional, and this is about to start a very annoying chat in the chat. I have a Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
The first one.
I did think I said at last episode that all the franchise ones I have, this X-Men, you can call it Before Sunrise, I have the first ones. There's something about that maybe just being brought into the world is an excitement that I can't be given again. I think there might be one more option, but I don't know. But also, keep in mind, I was 12 when this came out. I read the book when it came out. When I was a young kid, it was just a mega fan. So this was me going to see, Empire Strikes Back after a huge Star Wars fan. Me seeing Harry Potter the day coming out was the most exciting thing for me in my life. And I'm the same age as Daniel Radcliffe, so I literally grew up with this. And with that, it was just exactly what I wanted. I think Christopher Columbus, in a way, had the perfect idea of what this book was and what this movie can be. These first two books are children's books. They are, especially the first one, maybe a little less the second one. That's why that one as a movie I don't think works as well, because he brought the same style. But this book is all about just the wonder and the whimsy of seeing it, and he brings that, being brought into Diagon Alley for the first time, seeing the Quidditch game being played. It's all just through the eyes of a young kid, this magical wonder that exists, and I think that is all true throughout this. He does get the benefit of having the shortest book that he can capture a lot of it in it, but I think at setting up the tone of how the franchise can grow, but also setting what this world is, what it looks like. I think it just does a perfect job, and it's the most rewatchable for me. My favorites are the first and then the last, so I like the direct opposites of it. But this one, I think, just because of that sense of wonder and that ease of watching, it's the most comforting, calmest in a way of them. It is the one I return to the most. And I think Emma Watson is just a delight. That's why it's the most quotable, I think, of all the movies, because she just delivers this line with such childhood precociousness that she did better than most. She needs to go back to her frizzy hair. That was a good style. So I don't know. Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone will forever live in my heart.
I understand what you're saying. Just that it starts everything, and this one does the wish fulfillment thing better than any of these movies. But I think the stories and the characters get so much more interesting beyond this that I don't think it's by any means the worst one, but I definitely don't think it's the best one. I think there's just there's much more interesting that happens down the road. I mean, having a Harry Potter movie or two in your top 100, that's fine. But having this one in your top 35 is really high. And like I said, I mean, if you're putting it there as a representative of the whole franchise, that's fine. But like I said, there's things other movies in this franchise do that this one doesn't. This one is more just setting the stage. But everybody else on Sorcerer's Stone.
Sure. If this was how movies made you feel the first time you saw them in theaters, sure. But you watch this a second time, a third time, a fourth time, you see fucking Diagon Alley. You see Diagon Alley again. You see three actors, become better actors. You see the actual darkness of the thing. Yeah, some of them not so much, but you see the darkness of this. I think the first one probably is my second least favorite one. I hate how I understand they have to be. That's where they start. But I love the progression and the development and the character development throughout the rest of it. The first one just doesn't hold up. And no, I'm not giving you a fucking pass that this is all 8 movies sit beside Sorcerer's Stone. No, your ass put Sorcerer's Stone.
No, I didn't say that anyways. I didn't say that. Sure. The other ones wouldn't be on my list.
Oh, well then that's fucking insane. You should have said that. It would have tried to help your case with some people. With me, no.
Okay, I'm going to talk about my age. I'm ready to take a shot. I think if I was younger when these came out, I may have enjoyed them more. I get kids loving these movies, like Zach said he saw when he was a kid. I get that. I get adults like you guys like now loving them because you grew up loving them. I get that. But for me at the time when it came out, I just kind of thought, what was the big fuss about? Even with the books, it's the same way. I had like adults who were saying, oh, these books are great, even for adults. These movies are great, even for adults. Like, nah, they were like quite silly, and I didn't appreciate them at all. So yeah, this is just a movie that I think was just I was the wrong age for, and I've never really got. I mean, I have had to watch them again for trivia and stuff like that, begrudgingly, and they're fine for kids. I'm never going to watch them just for my own enjoyment. I think the better ones are, you know, probably like the last one I actually thought was actually a good movie. Everything else just kind of there.
I wish you were 30 when you would have saw the Goonies, and maybe you'd have the same opinion.
I admitted that up front, didn't I?
Yep. Fair.
I don't remember why. For some reason, I think it's because they were on HBO Max and they were leaving HBO Max. My girlfriend and I didn't marathon these, but we watched all 8 of them start to finish. I guess some point last year, and watching them all back to back like that gave me a perspective that I never had on them because I always just kind of watched them intermittently as I was growing up. And I gotta say, I was shocked by how much I liked the first few of these movies. I do think the first one, it does have like that childlike wonder like Zach was talking about. And I got to say, like, I was really impressed with a lot of the special effects, aside from like the Quidditch stuff, because like they look like PlayStation characters. But the a lot of the other stuff is like really, it holds up. Like a lot of the practical effects and even some of the computer effects, like they look really good still. And that there is like a style to it, and it feels otherworldly. And that's something that I feel like people either just ignore or don't care about, that the last 4 movies in this franchise are just gray, bland. They're like watching a pile of rocks. David Yates ruined this franchise, and the first like 3 or 4 movies at least felt distinct to me, and I enjoyed watching the first 4 for what they were. And then the second half of this franchise is just like the same. It's like the Transformers of Harry Potter movies.
Chamber of Secrets is better than this one.
Oh, that's a rough take. I will say those first 2 movies, Rupert Grint, unbearable, just completely unbearable. Okay, Cody, that takes us to your last movie of the night, number 31.
I don't think I'm going to be talking about it, but listen, one of your friends have a kid like Rupert Grint, and you just don't allow him to come over to your house often.
Great.
Reservoir Dogs.
Stops here.
Who else had it? Did anybody else have it?
I didn't have it.
I don't think anybody had this.
Yes. I fucking love this movie. I have never been almost smacked by my grandfather more by quoting the non-tipping line at a dinner table, saying that I don't believe in tipping. I don't believe in tipping. What the fuck you mean? He's so mad. I thought I was being real because he's never seen Reservoir Dogs. This movie goes from like 0 to 1,000 like that, and it doesn't lose it at all. This is like, I think this is my second favorite Tarantino. I just think it holds up so well. I think all the characters, Steve Buscemi and Harvey Keitel, are just so good in this film. Like where they're playing off each other. Even Tim Roth could honestly give Denzel a run for his money on who dies better in a movie. I mean, Tim Roth in the back of the car is doing an excellent job of dying. The stuck in the middle with you, that whole scene that breaks out. I just think this movie has twists and turns. I think it shows where Tarantino, like before Tarantino got like the following he did, and like he was able to just have fun. And there was no expectations from this movie, and that's how you feel in this movie, and it still holds up. I love this movie. If you haven't seen it, go fucking watch it. It's so good.
Nobody else had this.
Nah, Kirk, Godfather Part 2, and Reservoir Dogs, none. Just to let you know.
Yeah, this is a great movie. We've talked about this before. I think every top 100 so far it's been talked about. It's been brought up a lot. Just one of the greatest crime movies. Just the characters, like just those early, like right off the bat, just Tarantino had it just for creating characters and writing dialogue and building the characters into their dialogue is what he does so well. That opening scene, I mean, just all the conversations. Everybody talks about the Like a Virgin scene, but just like Toby Chu, to him going through the black book and talking about the tipping, and then Nice Guy Eddie talking about when the lights went out in Georgia, and just like that, like kind of like hangout vibe of just all and like, but you're getting so much information about this character at the same time, but it's so much fun. I've talked about this as much. I don't have anything really new to say about it, but just fantastic pick. Why are the rest of you? Why are the rest of you wrong?
I love this movie. It's great. I really like it a lot. I don't know why. I mean, it's just like it's not one of Tarantino's movies that I used to watch it a lot. I was obsessed with it, and then it's not that I stopped liking it as much. I just it left my rotation of movies, so it wasn't really like top of mind for me when I was making this list. And like there are some other Tarantino movies I might or might not have put on this list. So like at a certain point, I had to make some other cuts, and but it was close to making my list. And I think it's a fantastic movie, and I love it. So I think in another reality, it was on my list.
I the same way. I love this movie. I think it's really good. I think this is kind of with Tarantino's first movie, kind of showed off what he can do just with dialogue. I mean, this movie is just basically almost entirely dialogue. So this could have been a play. I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to put this on as a play. If maybe they have, I don't know. But it shows you that the whole movie can be just riveting, just these conversations. You don't really see the heist and things like that really happening. You kind of see the aftermath and stuff. It's a great movie. It didn't quite make my top 100. I think it was on my kind of brainstorming list, and I had to make room for things like basketball and Pirates of the Caribbean. I will agree with.
I shouldn't have reminded him.
If you like this movie.
It's been 15 years since I've seen this movie. For some reason, as far as Tarantino movies, one I haven't returned to, but I have 3 other Tarantino movies on my list.
All right, Ethan, what is your 31?
All right, let's see if it ends here. 31, Scream.
It ends here?
Because I know it was previously Yikes, I think, right?
Yeah, I had it in
30 or 40 today, I think.
I'm the only. I
had it at 74. I had it at 74.
Okay. So I think that's it, right? I go.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, Scream is a perfect horror/horror comedy. I know it's lighter on the comedy, but it is clearly there. Wes Craven is, he's one of like the greats, like one of the Mount Rushmores of horror movie directors. But also unsung hero here, Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter of Scream, the guy who made a lot of these iconic moments happen, and a lot of the clever writing and meta humor is attributed to him too. So people need to give him a little more credit. This movie is perfect. It's perfect. I love it. It beautifully plays on all these tropes of horror movies. I mean, horror in the 90s was not at a good point, and this movie just completely like revitalized it. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of copycat movies came after this movie, which ended up just becoming the movies that this one was almost spoofing in a way. But the twists and turns the story takes, the script is just so tight, and the villain of the movie is so good, Ghostface. If anyone hasn't seen this movie, which I'd be shocked, I won't spoil things, but there are a couple of choice moments I want to discuss, because obviously the Drew Barrymore scene everyone talks about, and this other scene people probably talk about a lot, but the genius of the scene where Jamie Kennedy is watching Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, and he's yelling at her, "Jamie, he's right behind you, turn around," as Ghostface is sneaking up on him, and his name is Jamie Kennedy, is just so smart. It's one of the best things ever. Yeah, Randy is such a good character. I love him so much. Neve Campbell's great. Skeet Ulrich is so good and creepy and weird in this movie. Matthew Lillard is like the best. I mean, he was born to play Shaggy, but he is so fucking good in this movie. And even David Arquette, he has one of my favorite moments ever where he's at a party. He comes to the party and he like, I don't remember the exact line, but there's like a kid drinking beer, and he's like, he's a cop, so he's like, "Hey, you drink a beer, you're underage?" He's like, "I'm just kidding, have a good time." It's so great. I love it. yeah, everyone knows about this movie and why it's great. But yeah, it's endlessly rewatchable, and it's one of the best horror movies ever made.
So yeah, I had this at 40. I feel like Ethan just like read my original review of this movie because he kind of touched all the same things I did. Because like in the 80s and early 90s, horror. Well, the 80s was pretty strong, but going to the 90s, horror genre was not good. I mean, they'd gone through the unstoppable killers like Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and all that stuff, but then it was kind of like the horror movies were, really kind of flailing, and this kind of came along and yeah, basically, reinvigorated and revitalized it. The problem being, as he mentioned, it came out with, there were a ton of copycats afterwards to, varying degrees of success, including its own kind of inferior sequels. But I mean, that doesn't change the fact that this one, the original one, was kind of revolutionary at the time. It was fun. It worked as a comedy. It worked as a spoof of horror movies while being a solid horror movie itself. Yeah, I mean, it kind of played the whole thing with a wink to the audience, and it just worked. Yeah, you already talked about the cast and everything, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a horror guy at all, and Scream just works so well for me. I honestly just love the series. I know everybody doesn't like 3, but even I find some stuff in 3 I actually enjoy. Or is it? No, it's 3. I think this is such a smart way to do horror. And some people say it's too much of a trope and stuff like that, but I think it's just smart. I think the ending is super interesting, and you never saw something like that before. And when they make that turn, and they're able to carry it throughout movies, Scream is one of the best horror movies that has ever come out. I put it up there with 1978's Halloween. I think they're just excellent films.
Scream's a good movie. I don't have anything really bad to say about it. I just feel like I kind of like Paul said, like horror went through a thing that like the Scream effect, and then I feel like what Scream did to horror, other movies did to Scream. Like you had like the Scary Movie franchise that kind of like spoofs the spoof, and then you had Cabin in the Woods, which I think is a better take and a better like commentary on horror movies than Scream is. I don't think it's a bad movie, but calling it one of the greatest horror movies of all time is insane. That's like calling Spaceballs one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. That's nuts. And having it like super, I think like where Ethan, Brian, where you had it tonight, right, Brian? Where did you have it?
Yeah, I had it at 40. I just talked about it. Yeah.
Where'd you have it, Cody?
74.
Yeah, see, that's a little better, but I think you guys have it way too high.
Is it a lot better that you don't have it on your list, like me?
Yes. What's your take on Scream, Zach?
I like this movie quite a bit, and I'm not a horror thing. Paul kind of hit it on the nose, where it also it might be the reason I don't like horror, because the like genre of teenage slasher films it set off for a while, which is so uninteresting to me, and it's kind of became as adulthood that I realized that horror could be more than that. That's what I had to grow up with. Is I Know What You Did Last Summer and all those other kind of ripoffs.
Also written by Ken Williamson.
Yeah, but aside from this movie represents a lot of trauma in my life. So we had this on VHS as one of my brother's favorite movies. So when I was like 8 or so, my mom let him babysit me because she's a horrible parent and I should look into if I can still press charges. And he legit tied me to a chair and forced me to watch Scream as an 8-year-old. And like would chase me around with an envelope opener. It looked like a dagger. And then later, Drew Barrymore was my first celebrity crush after Ryan Singer. And so then watching Scream as a little dog, just see like Drew Barrymore just fucking destroyed 5 minutes of the movie. It was also traumatizing. That was my love.
All right. Brian, what is your number 31?
My number 31 is the first but not last time you'll hear about this franchise, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Previous, yes.
Somebody else had it. Ethan, was it?
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, the only 3 Indiana Jones movies that have been made, I love all of them. Because this was the final one. They never made any more after this. But I mean, this one is just a ton of fun. I mean, a lot of the beats kind of follow the same as Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think that after Temple of Doom, where it got a little bit darker and took some more chances, some people didn't like that, so they kind of got safe and kind of went back to the same thing. But it's still, I love this movie from beginning to end. I think obviously Sean Connery as his father was just perfect casting, and the chemistry those two have together in their relationship and their banter, I think works perfectly. The only flaw I would see in the movie really is they kind of brought back Sala and Marcus Brody, where they made them a little too comical almost. But even then, I still enjoy their characters. I just kind of thought it was odd that they changed them so much from the first movie to this one. But yeah, this one, it's just like all the Indiana Jones movies. It's got spectacular action sequences. It's great, directed by Steven Spielberg, and of course Harrison Ford. I mean, as much as I like him as Han Solo, and that Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. This is the character that I will always associate with him, and I think he's just perfect in the role. Ethan.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, yeah, the chemistry between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery is so good. Sean Connery is hilarious in this movie. That's one of the things I like when rewatching these movies. I forget because like Temple of Doom always used to be my favorite because I liked it, how dark it was. But then rewatching them, this one's just such a better movie, and it really is like it's very funny. It has some of the best like humor beats in the franchise, like with No Ticket and when like Hitler signs the book for him, and like just like a bunch of those moments are so good. The action sequences are incredible. The tank chase sequence is so good. It's one of the best action sequences in the franchise. I love that the whole like ending bit is just him like solving these riddles in like really clever ways. Like one of the few things that like still bothers me about the ending of this movie is the way that I don't remember the villain's name exactly, but he ages really rapidly, and it looks cool, and I like that as a way he dies. But it's just very similar to the face melting in the first movie. But it's still cool. It's still great. Yeah, it's awesome. Sure. Yeah, and Indiana have to, he has to leave the Grail behind, and Sean Connery's like, let it go like that. It's all really, really great. I love how it wraps up the trilogy. And Brian,
I want to say also, I thought in addition to another perfect casting was River Phoenix as young Indiana Jones.
Yes.
I mean, that whole sequence, is it necessary to the movie? No, it's just kind of thrown in there to be fun. But I thought that River Phoenix makes such a perfect young version of Harrison Ford. The only thing I didn't like about that sequence is that once, kind of like what they did in Solo, a Star Wars story, where they decided that in this one day, we're going to explain everything about him from the scar on his chin to how he uses the whip to why he hates snakes. So, I mean, yes, it was silly. Wasn't necessary, no, but I thought River Phoenix made a perfect young Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I love this movie because it does go back to so much of what worked in Raiders. I mean, that Temple of Doom is like, okay, what works? It's like, okay, desert, Middle East, biblical artifact, John Rhys Davies, Delmont Elliott, bring all those people back. And then you have the, that great addition, Sean Connery, who's just so perfectly cast. The only reason I do prefer Raiders is because I feel like this movie is Raiders with all like the rough edges sanded off. I think this is like a lot clearer. Like you said, like a lot of the comedy, but it's like the supporting characters are more comic relief. Like the young Indiana Jones is more like geared for kids. So I like Raiders a lot more. But this like having this. I think I had it somewhere close to this on my list. I mean, I have no problem with you having it this high. And top 100, it's a great pick. So Cody and Zach on Last Crusade.
I really like the movie. It's a lot of fun. I prefer Raiders as long as you don't have Temple of Doom, which is a disaster. I'm glad they recovered with Last Crusade, and add a new element to it with Sean Connery is a smart way to keep the franchise going.
I love this movie. It's my favorite of the trilogy. I love the father-son back and forth. I famously missed his name, first name in the film, so it will always haunt me. So other than that, it's a great film. I've talked about it enough, but it's a fantastic film. And there's only 3 of them, so I agree.
They're making a 4th one. I don't know if you guys heard.
Oh, cool. Hopefully it's good.
Maybe make it a 4th one if it's good.
All right, Zach, take us home with your number 31.
This is about to be Kirk's vertigo of the night. This is Singing in the Rain.
Yikes.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, that does
You
it
can
then.
save those bullshit comments for later if he has any.
I have to pick a winner, don't I?
You do. I
wish
mean, you
guys-
don't have to, but yeah.
I wish you guys would make this easier for me.
Is it me, Kirk?
It's close.
It's gonna
It might be Ethan. I'm like seriously, like I have this like, I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. I got to give it to Zach. Zach wins tonight. He had Pulp Fiction, Tenenbaums, Casablanca, It's a Wonderful Life. Cody's number 2, close. I mean, he had Godfather 2, Reservoir Dogs made it hard. I mean, Cody, we could talk. I'll give you details of why I made my decision off the air. I don't want to go to it now because it's late. But it just
Same for you.
So close. But Zach just had a little bit of that. I mean, you had Rounders of Town, a lot of good stuff on your list, Jurassic Park, Gladiator. But Zach just edged out a little bit with what he had tonight. Third place, again, not finishing last, is Brian. He tried to lose it with Aliens and World's End. But I mean, he had Last Crusade on there, so that True Romance, he had some high spots. And then last place, I mean, Ethan, you never had a chance tonight, buddy. I mean, you were just digging yourself the hole. I mean, Sweeney Todd, Top Secret, Hellraiser 2, Mulholland Drive, Holy Grail. I mean, this is the Mount Rushmore of bad movies. So
really with those. Come on.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, you don't look at Holy Grail and Top Secret because those movies are so different. But yeah,
They're very different. But yeah.
that's tonight's show, everybody. We only got 3 more of these left. 3 more content episodes left, guys. It's breezing by. Summer will be here before we know it, and Cody's got to come up with ideas for some more episodes. So
not like Kirk back in the hosting chair. That's object number 1.
But that's it. Thank you for we went 3 hours. Good night. Thank you for everybody who stuck around, hung out with us. Hope you had fun, and we will see you next week.
Going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk and angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
And not expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.